The Zeigarnik Effect describes how people remember unfinished tasks better than completed ones. When you start something but don't finish it, your mind keeps thinking about it. This effect comes from a psychologist named Bluma Zeigarnik, who noticed that waiters could recall orders only while the orders were still active. Once the order was served, they forgot the details. Imagine you begin writing an email, but get distracted before sending it. The thought of the unsent email stays in your mind longer than if you had finished and sent it. Your brain holds on to the incomplete task, pushing you to finish it. This happens because your mind treats unfinished work as a kind of tension or gap. That gap makes your thoughts come back to it repeatedly. Think about a puzzle you're solving. If you stop when only a few pieces are left, those missing pieces stand out. You keep thinking about how to fit them in. But if you complete the puzzle, your mind no longer dwells on it. The feeling of something left undone drives your focus toward completion. This effect can work in many areas. For example, when reading a book, you might remember the last few pages you haven't read yet more clearly than the chapters you finished. That unfinished part creates a pull that makes you want to continue. The same happens with TV shows that end episodes on a cliffhanger. Your mind lingers on what will happen next because the story is incomplete. In work or study, the Zeigarnik Effect explains why people often keep thinking about projects they paused. If you stop halfway through a task, your brain flags it as unfinished business. This flag holds your attention until you complete the job or decide to drop it. This is why some people find it hard to relax after leaving work undone. You can use this effect to your advantage. For instance, when trying to remember something important, start working on it and then stop intentionally. Your mind will keep focusing on it until you return and finish the task. Writers sometimes do this by stopping mid-scene to keep their motivation high when they come back to the story. On the other hand, the Zeigarnik Effect can also cause stress. Unfinished tasks can nag at your mind and create tension. If you have too many incomplete things, your focus might scatter, making it harder to concentrate. It's like having several open tabs in your brain, each demanding attention. To reduce this tension, some people use lists or notes to track what's incomplete, giving their mind a sense of control. The effect also explains why interruptions can feel frustrating. When someone breaks your work, your brain flags that task as incomplete, causing you to think about it, even when you try to focus elsewhere. This makes returning to the task harder because your mind is stuck on what you didn't finish. In everyday life, the Zeigarnik Effect shows up in simple ways. If you leave your dishes in the sink instead of washing them, you might find the task keeps coming back in your thoughts. Your brain wants to close the loop. If you clean up, the thought fades. Leaving things undone leaves mental open loops that keep tugging at your attention. This effect highlights how our minds naturally seek closure. When we start something, our brain wants to finish it. If we don't, it keeps bringing the task forward in our thoughts, asking for resolution. This process happens without us realizing it. It's a subtle but powerful way our minds handle information and motivation. The forced empathy shift is a way to help someone see things from another person's point of view. It works by asking a simple question: how would you feel if? This question encourages people to imagine themselves in someone else's situation. When they do this, they often soften their resistance and open up to understanding. Picture a disagreement between coworkers. One person feels upset because they think the other is not listening. Instead of arguing, the first person might say, "How would you feel if you worked hard on a project and felt ignored?" This question asks the other to step into their shoes. It helps shift the focus from defending themselves to considering the other's feelings. This technique works because people naturally protect their own point of view. When someone challenges their opinion, they often resist. They may become defensive or shut down. By asking, "How would you feel if?" you invite them to connect emotionally with the situation. This connection can reduce their need to resist. Imagine a parent talking to a teenager who refuses to do chores. The parent might say, How would you feel if you came home after a long day and the house was messy? This invites the teen to imagine the parent's feelings. It opens the door for the teen to understand why the chores matter without feeling attacked. The forced empathy shift also helps in customer service. When a customer complains, a representative can ask, "How would you feel if you waited a long time for your order and it was wrong?" This question shows the company understands the customer's frustration. It helps calm the situation and encourages a solution. Using this question does not mean you agree with the other person. Instead, it means you want to understand their feelings better. This understanding creates space for honest communication. People are more likely to listen when they feel heard. You can use this approach in many everyday situations. For example, if a friend is upset about something you did, ask, "How would you feel if you were in my place?" This invites empathy both ways. It shows you want to understand their feelings and share yours. It can clear up misunderstandings. This method works best when you ask genuinely. If the question sounds fake or like a trick, it can backfire. People might feel manipulated and resist more. The goal is to invite real reflection, not to force agreement. The forced empathy shift also helps people move beyond right and wrong. When someone considers feelings, they often see that situations are more complex. This helps reduce conflict and build trust. In practice, this approach takes patience. Sometimes people need time to imagine how others feel. It might not change their mind immediately, but it plants a seed for better understanding. This technique fits well with active listening. When you listen carefully, you can choose the right moment to ask, "How would you feel if?" The question then feels natural, not forced. This makes it easier for the other person to open up. The forced empathy shift can soften hard conversations. It encourages people to think beyond their own view. It creates a space where emotions matter and understanding grows. This simple question can change how people relate to each other, one conversation at a time. A door-in-the-face technique is a way to get someone to agree to a request by first asking for something much bigger. After the big request is refused, you then make a smaller, more reasonable request. People often say yes to the second request because it feels easier compared to the first. Imagine you want to borrow a car from a friend for a week. Instead of asking right away, you start by asking to borrow it for a whole month. Your friend will likely say no because a month is a long time. Then you follow up by asking to borrow it just for the weekend. The weekend request seems small compared to a month, so your friend is more likely to agree. This works because of a social rule called reciprocity. When someone refuses a big request, they often feel a need to give something back when you ask for a smaller favor. Saying yes to the second request feels like a compromise. It helps balance the social exchange. Picture a salesperson trying to sell a product. They might first offer a very expensive version of the product. When the customer rejects it, the salesperson offers a cheaper model. The cheaper model now seems more attractive because the customer has just turned down the expensive option. The technique depends on how you make the requests. The first request must be big enough to be refused, but not so outrageous that it seems impossible. If the first request is too extreme, people may not want to continue the conversation. The second request should be smaller but related to the first. If it feels like a completely different ask, the effect weakens. In everyday life, this approach helps in negotiations. For example, if you are trying to get a raise, you might first ask for a large increase. When that is turned down, you ask for a smaller raise. Your employer may agree to the smaller raise because it looks reasonable next to the larger demand. The door-in-the-face technique also works with kids. If a parent wants a child to clean their room, they might start by asking the child to clean the entire house. When the child refuses, the parent then asks just for the room to be cleaned. The child may agree because cleaning the room now seems easier than cleaning the whole house. This method does not guarantee a yes, but it improves the chance compared to asking for the smaller request first. It plays on how people view requests in relation to one another. It's important to be honest when using this technique. If someone realizes the first request was just a trick, they may lose trust. Using it respectfully keeps communication clear and open. The door-in-the-face technique shows how people respond to comparisons in requests. It reveals that the way we frame a question can change the answer. By starting big, you make the smaller ask look like a fair deal. This strategy works because people like to avoid conflict and want to appear reasonable. When you ask for too much and then less, they feel like they are making a fair choice by agreeing to the smaller request. It's a simple but effective way to increase cooperation. Visual dominance happens when you use eye contact to take control of a situation or influence how others see you. When you hold someone's gaze steadily, you show confidence and strength. This can make people pay attention, respect you, or feel attracted. How you use eye contact shapes what others think about you. Imagine a job interview. A candidate who looks the interviewer in the eye shows they are confident and ready. If they avoid eye contact, the interviewer might think they are unsure or hiding something. Steady eye contact here can help the candidate dominate the conversation, guiding it in their favor. Eye contact can also work in social or romantic settings. When two people look deeply into each other's eyes, it can create a strong connection. This connection can draw them closer or build trust. For example, during the conversation, maintaining eye contact can make the other person feel important and understood. This feeling can spark attraction or deepen respect. But visual dominance doesn't mean staring without stopping. Staring too long can feel aggressive or uncomfortable. The key is to hold eye contact just long enough to show confidence, then break away naturally. This gives the other person space, but keeps your presence strong. Think about a leader speaking to a group. If the leader makes eye contact with different people across the room, it shows control and presence. The group feels engaged and notices the leader's authority. On the other hand, if the leader looks down or away, people might doubt their command. Visual dominance also plays a role in negotiations. When you look the other person in the eye, you signal honesty and seriousness. It can make them less likely to lie or try to trick you. The right amount of eye contact builds trust without giving away weakness. Some cultures see eye contact differently. In some places, steady eye contact means respect and honesty. In others, it can seem rude or confrontational. Knowing this helps you use visual dominance the right way, depending on who you are with. In everyday life, visual dominance can help you in small ways. If you want to get someone's attention, meet their eyes instead of looking around. If you want to appear more confident, practice holding eye contact when you speak. These small changes affect how others see you. For example, when asking for a favor, looking someone in the eye shows you believe in your request. This can make them more willing to say yes. When giving feedback, eye contact shows you are serious and care about the conversation. Visual dominance is about control through nonverbal communication. Your eyes send messages before you say a word. Using eye contact well lets you shape how others feel and respond to you. This skill takes practice. Start by noticing how much eye contact you make in conversations. Try holding eye contact a little longer and see how people react. You will find the right balance between connection and control. In short, eye contact is a powerful tool. It can seduce, command, or calm. The way you use it controls the story others tell about you. Visual dominance works because it taps into a basic human need to connect through the eyes. Reward intermittently means giving rewards in a way that is not regular or predictable. Instead of getting a reward every time, people get it sometimes, but not always. This unpredictability makes people keep trying because they want to know when the next reward will come. This pattern is common in places like casinos and social media. Think about a slot machine in a casino. You pull the lever and might win money, but most times you don't. The chance of winning is random. Because the reward doesn't come every time, people keep playing. They want to hit the jackpot, even if it might take many tries. The unpredictability hooks them more than a reward given every time. Social media uses this idea too. When you scroll through a feed, sometimes you see a funny video, a like on your post, or a message from a friend. These positive moments come at random. You don't know when you'll get a like or an interesting post. This keeps you checking the app again and again, hoping for another reward. This method taps into how the brain processes rewards. When you get a reward unpredictably, your brain releases dopamine, a chemical that makes you feel good. Because you don't know when the next reward will come, your brain stays engaged, wanting more. If the reward came every time, the dopamine release would be less exciting. In everyday life, you can see this effect in games. Some video games give players rewards randomly. Players keep playing to unlock rare items or win bonuses. The random rewards keep the game interesting and motivate players to continue. This method also works in learning or training. If a teacher gives praise or a small prize at random times, students might work harder because they don't know when they'll be recognized. This unpredictable reward can keep motivation high. However, unpredictable rewards can also lead to bad habits. When people get hooked on random rewards, they might spend too much time or money trying to get more. In casinos, this can lead to gambling problems. On social media, it can cause people to spend hours scrolling without realizing it. The timing of rewards matters. If the reward comes too rarely, people may lose interest. If it comes too often, it loses its power. The key is to find the right balance that keeps people engaged but not frustrated. For example, a coffee shop might give a free drink randomly to customers. If customers never know when they might get a free coffee, they keep coming back. But if the free drink happens every time or never at all, customers might stop feeling excited about visiting. In relationships, this idea can also play a role. Unexpected compliments or small surprises can strengthen bonds because they catch people pleasantly off guard. This unpredictability makes positive moments stand out more. Reward intermittently works because it uses the power of surprise. People like to seek out these surprises and feel the joy that comes with them. This keeps behaviors going longer than steady, predictable rewards would. By understanding this pattern, you can see why some habits are hard to break and why certain activities keep drawing attention. It explains how small, random rewards create strong motivation and influence behavior over time. The interrupt pattern helps you take control of a conversation when someone is stuck in their own train of thought or repeating the same point. People sometimes get caught in mental loops, going over the same idea again and again. Interrupting that loop can reset the discussion and give you a chance to guide it in a new direction. Imagine you're in a meeting and a colleague keeps pushing the same argument without listening to others. They repeat their point loudly, blocking progress. You can use the interrupt pattern to break this cycle. For example, you might say, "Hold on, let's pause here and look at it from a different angle." This stops their repetition and shifts focus. The interruption breaks their loop and opens the floor for new ideas. Interrupting does not mean cutting someone off rudely. It means stepping in at the right moment with a clear, calm statement that changes the flow. The goal is to reset the conversation, not to shut down the other person. In negotiations, this technique is useful. If the other side keeps insisting on a demand without considering your offers, interrupting can help. Saying something like, "Let's take a moment to rethink our options," stops their repeated stance. It gives both sides space to rethink and prevents the conversation from getting stuck. In everyday talks, people sometimes fixate on worries or complaints. They replay the same concerns without moving forward. If a friend keeps dwelling on a problem, you might say, "I understand, but what can we do next?" This interrupts their mental loop and nudges the talk towards solutions. The interrupt pattern works because our brains don't like sudden changes, but they also get trapped when stuck in a loop. When you interrupt, you introduce a surprise that forces the brain to reset. It stops the repetitive thinking and opens new mental pathways. Timing matters. Interrupt too soon and you may seem impatient or rude. Wait too long and the loop becomes stronger. The best moment to interrupt is when the repetition is clear, but before frustration builds up. Tone also matters. Use a calm, steady voice. If you sound angry or dismissive, the interruption might cause conflict. If you sound thoughtful and composed, it invites cooperation. For example, during a family discussion about chores, one person might repeat that they do more than others. Instead of arguing back, another family member could say, "Let's pause and list what everyone does." This breaks the repetitive complaint and moves the talk to facts. In teaching or coaching, the interrupt pattern helps when a student gets stuck on a mistake. The teacher might say, "Let's stop and try a different method." This breaks the student's negative loop and encourages fresh thinking. The interrupt pattern is a simple but powerful tool. It helps you regain control in conversations that get stuck. By breaking mental loops, you open space for new ideas and progress. Using this technique well requires practice. Watch for signs of repetition and be ready with a clear, calm interruption. When you do, you guide the conversation toward a more productive path. Strategic vagueness means speaking in a way that leaves room for others to fill in the gaps with their own ideas. When you are unclear or open-ended, people tend to project what they want to hear. This makes them feel like the idea belongs to them, even if you introduced it first. Imagine a manager says, "We need to improve our results next quarter." This statement is vague. It doesn't specify how or what needs to change. Different team members will think about this in their own way. One might focus on sales, another on customer service, and another on marketing. Each person imagines the goal in a way that fits their interests or strengths. Because they see their own ideas in the manager's words, they feel more involved and motivated. This technique works because people like to own ideas. When they feel an idea is theirs, they support it more actively. Strategic vagueness gives people space to add their meaning without feeling pushed. It lowers resistance and opens collaboration. Consider a politician giving a speech. If they say something broad like, "We will create a better future," listeners can interpret that in many ways. Supporters fill in the meaning with what they want: jobs, safety, education, or freedom. The politician doesn't have to promise specifics, but still gains support from a wide group. In personal relationships, this tactic helps in delicate conversations. For example, if you tell a friend, "Maybe there's a way to fix this," you leave room for their ideas. They might think of solutions you hadn't considered. Because they come up with the ideas themselves, they feel more committed to making changes. The key to strategic vagueness is balancing enough detail to guide the thought, but not so much that you limit interpretation. Too vague, and people get confused or lose interest. Too specific, and you close the door on others' input. Imagine a teacher saying, "Try to do your best on the project." This encourages students to set their own goals. Each student imagines what doing your best means for them. Some might aim for perfect work, others for improvement. The teacher's vague instruction lets students take ownership. This approach also works in sales or negotiations. If a salesperson says, "This product could really help your business," the client will picture the benefit they want most. The vagueness lets the client project their needs, making the product seem more appealing. Strategic vagueness can also prevent conflict. When topics are sensitive, being too clear can cause disagreement. Vague language softens the message and allows people to find their own comfort level. For example, saying, "We should think about some changes," sounds less threatening then we must change this now. Using this method takes skill. You must watch how people respond and adjust your words. If someone asks for details, you can give them later or steer the conversation to their own ideas. This technique respects others' minds and creativity. Instead of forcing your views, you let them shape the meaning. This creates cooperation and trust. In short, strategic vagueness invites others to join the conversation on their terms. It lets them feel like the idea is theirs, which makes them more willing to act on it. This subtle way of speaking is a powerful tool to influence without direct pressure. The IKEA effect describes how people tend to value things more when they build or create them themselves. This idea comes from observing how people feel proud of furniture they assemble on their own, like products from IKEA. Because they put effort into the work, they see the final product as more valuable. Imagine you buy a chair from a store that comes fully assembled. You might like the chair, but it feels like just another item. Now, imagine you buy the same chair but have to put it together yourself. After spending time and effort, you tend to feel more attached to that chair. You see it as something special because you built it. This effect happens because effort creates a sense of ownership. When people invest time and energy into making something, they become more connected to it. That connection increases the item's worth in their eyes. Even if the final product is simple or imperfect, people still value it highly because of the work they put in. Think about cooking a meal from scratch. If you follow a recipe and prepare the food yourself, you often enjoy it more than a meal bought ready-made. The time spent chopping, mixing, and cooking makes the meal feel like your own creation. That feeling makes the food taste better and feel more satisfying. The IKEA effect also appears in work and learning. If you solve a problem on your own or create a project, you tend to appreciate it more than if someone else did the same work for you. This sense of accomplishment boosts confidence and motivation. Consider a student who writes a paper themselves versus one who buys a finished paper. The student who writes it values their work more because they put in effort. They feel proud and take ownership of the final product. Companies use this effect in product design and marketing. They offer products that require assembly or customization. This approach makes customers feel involved. For example, build your own computer kits attract buyers who want to create and personalize their machines. The process makes the final computer more meaningful to them. The IKEA effect explains why people resist throwing away things they made themselves, even if others see those things as low quality. The effort spent creates a bias. People overlook flaws because they focus on their personal investment. This effect can sometimes lead to overvaluing. People might keep broken or poorly made items because they built them. They feel responsible and want to protect their work. This shows how strong the link between effort and value can be. In relationships, the IKEA effect appears too. When people invest effort in building connections, they value those relationships more. Time spent together, shared experiences, and working through problems create stronger bonds. The key takeaway is that effort increases value. When you do something yourself, it becomes more than just a thing or task. It becomes part of your identity. This connection makes people care more deeply and feel a stronger sense of pride. In short, the IKEA effect shows how effort shapes how we see value. Building or creating something ourselves creates a personal bond that changes our perception. This effect explains why people like hands-on work and why they protect what they make. Delay the negative means giving good news first before sharing bad news. This approach softens the impact of the negative information. When people hear something positive first, they feel calmer and more open. This makes it easier for them to accept the bad news that follows. Imagine a manager telling an employee about changes at work. Instead of starting with, "We're cutting your hours," the manager begins with, "Your performance has been strong, and the team values your work." After sharing this, the manager then explains the hours cut. The positive message helps the employee feel recognized and less shocked by the bad news. This method works because people react emotionally to news. Good news triggers a positive response, creating a mental buffer. When bad news comes right after, it feels less harsh. If you start with the negative, people may shut down or become defensive, making the conversation harder. Think about a doctor delivering test results. If the doctor says first, "Your overall health is good," before mentioning some concerns, the patient feels reassured. The good news creates calm. The patient is more likely to listen and understand the concerns without panic. Delay the negative also helps in customer service. If a company needs to tell a customer about a problem with their order, starting with, "Thank you for being a loyal customer," or "We appreciate your patience," sets a respectful tone. Then the company explains the issue. The positive introduction reduces frustration and keeps the conversation constructive. In personal life, this technique can ease difficult talks. If you want to say no to a friend's invitation, starting with, "I really appreciate you asking me," before saying you can't come makes the refusal softer. The friend feels valued first, which lowers disappointment. It's important that the good news or positive statement feels genuine. If it seems fake or like a trick, the listener may lose trust. The goal is to prepare the person emotionally, not to distract from the bad news. Sometimes the positive news may be small, but still meaningful. For example, in a performance review, a manager might say, "You met your deadlines consistently," before discussing areas for improvement. The positive comment encourages the employee to hear the criticism without feeling attacked. The timing between the good and bad news should be close. Wait too long, and the positive effect fades. Say them one after another, so the good news sets the stage for the negative. In situations where bad news is unexpected, this approach helps maintain calm and respect. It shows you recognize the person's feelings and want to be fair. However, delaying the negative doesn't mean hiding or avoiding the truth. It simply means arranging your message to help the listener handle it better. This technique supports clear and respectful communication. It helps keep conversations open, even when the news is hard to share. By delivering good news first, you guide how people receive the information. You create a smoother path for the tough part. This simple order of sharing news makes difficult talks easier for everyone involved. The pregnant pause is a simple but powerful way to make your words stand out. You say something important, then stop talking for a moment. This silence creates pressure and makes people pay attention. It gives your message weight and lets others think about what you said. Imagine you are in a meeting and you share a key fact, like our sales dropped by 20%. Instead of continuing right away, you pause. That moment of silence makes everyone focus on the number. They realize it is serious. If you rushed on, the fact might get lost in the flow of conversation. This pause works because people naturally feel uncomfortable with silence. When you stop talking, others often fill the space with thoughts or reactions. They want to understand your message, so they listen more carefully. The silence makes the information feel important. In everyday talks, the pregnant pause can help when you want to emphasize a point. For example, if you tell a friend, "I have something to tell you," and then pause, it builds suspense. Your friend becomes curious and pays close attention. The pause prepares them for what comes next. This technique is common in storytelling or speeches. A speaker might say, "And then something unexpected happened," and pause. The audience waits quietly, eager to hear what's next. The pause creates drama and keeps people engaged. In negotiations, the pregnant pause can be a tool to gain control. After you make an offer or state your terms, pausing forces the other side to respond. The silence puts pressure on them to speak first. It can reveal their thoughts or weaknesses. If you keep talking, you lose this advantage. Using this pause takes practice. It's not about awkward silence, but purposeful timing. The length of the pause matters. Too short, and it loses effect. Too long, and people may become uncomfortable or distracted. A few seconds is usually enough to make your point hit harder. Tone and body language matter when you use the pause. Stay calm and confident. Look at the people you are speaking to. Don't rush to fill the silence. Your calm presence makes the pause stronger. The pregnant pause can also show confidence. When you pause after speaking, you signal that what you said is worth considering. It shows you don't need to rush or explain yourself more. This quiet confidence can influence how others see you. In teaching or coaching, a pause after asking a question gives students time to think. Instead of answering immediately, the pause encourages deeper reflection. This leads to better understanding and participation. The pause can soften difficult news too. After delivering bad news, a pause gives the listener space to process. It shows you respect their feelings and aren't rushing through the message. Some people fear silence and talk to fill every gap. Using the pregnant pause teaches that silence can be a tool, not a problem. It helps shape conversations by controlling the rhythm and focus. In short, the pregnant pause is about timing and presence. It makes your important words stand out. It invites others to think and react. When used well, this pause changes how your message lands and how people respond. Microaffirmations are small actions like nodding, smiling, or making encouraging sounds that show support and attention. Though tiny, these gestures make people feel understood and valued. They help build trust and create a positive connection in conversations. Imagine you are telling a friend about a problem. If they nod while you talk or say, "I see," you feel heard. These small signals tell you they are paying attention. Without them, the talk might feel one-sided or ignored. Microaffirmations encourage people to keep sharing because they sense respect and care. In meetings, microaffirmations help create a good atmosphere. When a team member shares an idea and others nod or smile, it shows support. This simple feedback can boost confidence and encourage more participation. People are more likely to speak up when they feel their input matters. Microaffirmations work because they respond to basic human needs. Everyone wants to be seen and accepted. When you offer a small nod or smile, you acknowledge the other person's presence and feelings. These actions speak louder than words sometimes because they happen naturally and often without thinking. For example, a teacher might give a quick thumbs up or a smile to a student who answers a question. This silent praise makes the student feel recognized. It motivates them to keep trying, even if they don't get everything right. The small gesture carries meaning beyond the classroom. In customer service, microaffirmations calm upset customers. A worker who listens patiently, nodding or using short, encouraging words like "uh-huh" or "got it," makes the customer feel valued. This simple attention can turn a negative experience into a positive one. Even in online chats or video calls, microaffirmations matter. Smiling at the camera or giving a thumbs up emoji can show you are engaged. These signs help maintain connection even when you're not physically present. Microaffirmations also reduce tension in difficult conversations. When emotions run high, small gestures of support help ease frustration. A calm nod or a gentle smile signals that you are open to understanding, not judgment. This can keep a conversation productive instead of turning it hostile. People often underestimate the power of these small actions. They might focus on what they say and forget how important nonverbal signals are. Yet, microaffirmations shape how others experience the interaction. They build rapport and trust quietly but effectively. These gestures are easy to use but must be genuine. Fake smiles or nods can feel insincere and backfire. Authentic microaffirmations come from true attention and care. In leadership, using microaffirmations shows respect for team members. A leader who listens and responds with small supportive signs encourages loyalty and cooperation. It builds a culture where people feel safe to express themselves. In friendships or family, microaffirmations keep bonds strong. When someone shares a story and you respond with a nod or smile, you say without words, "I'm here for you." These small moments create a sense of belonging and support. Microaffirmations remind us that communication is more than words. Tiny actions create big effects. They make people feel seen, heard, and valued in simple, quiet ways. Repetition hypnosis is the idea that repeating a phrase over and over can make people accept it as true. When we hear the same words many times, our brains start to believe them without questioning. This happens because repetition makes information familiar, and familiar things feel more reliable. Think about a commercial that says, "Our product is the best," again and again. After hearing it several times, people begin to believe it. Even if they don't know much about the product, the repeated message creates trust. The phrase becomes a kind of truth simply because it sticks in their mind. This effect works in everyday life too. Imagine a teacher who repeats important points during a lesson. Students hear the same idea several times, so it stays in their memory. When the teacher says, "Always check your work," repeatedly, students are more likely to follow that advice. Repetition hypnosis can also shape opinions. If someone hears a political message repeatedly, they might start to believe it is correct, even if it's false. The repeated message overrides doubts because it feels familiar and safe. For example, in conversations, a person might repeat a statement like, "We can solve this problem together," to encourage agreement. Saying it several times helps others accept the idea and feel more cooperative. The repetition builds comfort and trust around the phrase. In therapy or self-help, people use repetition to change negative thoughts. Saying, "I am confident" every day can help someone believe it. The repeated phrase replaces old doubts with new positive ideas. Over time, this changes how they feel about themselves. However, repetition doesn't guarantee truth. It only makes a statement feel true. People must still think critically about what they hear. This is why advertisers, politicians, and others use repetition carefully to influence opinions. Repetition hypnosis depends on how often and how clearly the phrase is repeated. If it's too rare, the message won't stick. If it's too frequent, people may get annoyed or stop paying attention. The right balance helps the message settle into the mind without causing resistance. In sales, a simple phrase like, "This offer won't last long," repeated in different ways, pushes people to act quickly. Hearing it several times creates urgency. The repetition makes the idea feel real and important. In relationships, repeating kind words like, "I appreciate you," can strengthen bonds. Hearing the phrase often reassures the other person and builds trust. The repetition helps make the feeling genuine and lasting. Repetition hypnosis also works with body language and tone. Saying a phrase calmly and clearly multiple times makes it more believable. If you mumble or rush, repetition loses power. Using repetition takes skill. The phrase must be simple and meaningful. Complex or confusing ideas won't embed easily. Clear, repeated words have the best chance to influence. In short, repeating a phrase creates familiarity. This familiarity tricks the brain into accepting it as true. Whether in advertising, teaching, or personal growth, repetition shapes what people believe and remember. Cognitive dissonance induction happens when a person's actions conflict with their beliefs. This creates tension inside the mind. To reduce this tension, the mind changes either the belief or how it views the action. This adjustment makes the two fit better and eases discomfort. Imagine someone who believes smoking is bad for health but still smokes. The conflict between their action and belief causes mental discomfort. To resolve this, the person might tell themselves, "It's not that bad," or "I only smoke occasionally." This change in belief helps reduce the tension caused by the contradiction. This process works because people want to feel consistent inside. When thoughts and actions don't match, it feels wrong. The mind tries to fix this by adjusting beliefs or attitudes. This is the core of cognitive dissonance induction. In sales, this principle can influence customers. For example, a salesperson might ask a customer to try a free sample of a product. Once the customer accepts and uses it, they feel a subtle pressure to like the product because they took action. Their mind changes to match the action, reducing dissonance. In everyday life, this happens often without people noticing. If you spend time and effort on a task, you tend to value it more. For instance, someone who builds a model airplane might feel proud of it and believe it's worth the effort. Their action of investing time contradicts any thought that the model is unimportant, so their mind adjusts the value. Cognitive dissonance induction also appears in social situations. If a person acts friendly towards someone they didn't like before, their feelings may shift. They might start to like that person more because their friendly actions contradict their earlier dislike. Changing feelings reduces the mental conflict. In education, teachers can use this by encouraging students to commit to learning. Once students put in effort, they often change their beliefs about the subject. They may start thinking, "This is interesting," because their actions don't match boredom or disinterest. Sometimes, this induction causes people to ignore facts. For example, if someone supports a political idea but faces evidence against it, they might reject the evidence to avoid conflict with their belief. The mind protects itself by adjusting what it accepts as true. This process shows why people often defend their choices strongly, even when those choices seem wrong from the outside. Their minds have already adjusted to reduce dissonance and maintain internal consistency. The tension caused by cognitive dissonance motivates change. People don't like feeling uneasy inside. When actions contradict beliefs, the mind works to fix the gap quickly. This can lead to new ideas or changes in behavior over time. Understanding this effect helps in communication and persuasion. If you want to influence someone, getting them to act first can lead to changes in their beliefs later. Actions can shape thoughts more than words alone. In short, cognitive dissonance induction is about the mind seeking harmony. When beliefs and actions clash, the mind shifts to reduce discomfort. This shift explains why people change their views after making choices or taking actions that don't fully align with their original beliefs. Priming happens when subtle cues around us influence how we think or act without us realizing it. These cues can be words, images, sounds, or even smells. They prepare the brain to respond in a certain way, often without conscious thought. Imagine you walk into a room where the walls are painted blue. Blue often feels calm and cool. Without noticing, you might feel more relaxed or patient in that room. The color primes your brain to respond calmly. You don't think about the color, but it affects your mood and behavior. In one experiment, people read words related to kindness and helping. Afterward, they were more likely to offer help to strangers. The words they read primed their minds toward kindness. They didn't plan to act that way. The cue influenced them unconsciously. Priming works because our brains look for patterns and shortcuts. When we see or hear something, it activates related ideas stored in our minds. These activated ideas shape our behavior and decisions. For example, if you hear words about old age, you might walk more slowly afterward. Your brain links the cue to related behavior. Retail stores use priming to guide customers. They might play soft music to make shoppers feel relaxed and stay longer. Or they place products near the checkout that remind people of treats, nudging them to buy impulsively. Customers don't always realize these cues shape their choices. Priming can happen with smells too. The scent of fresh coffee in a cafe can prime people to feel alert or energized. The smell triggers associations that influence mood and even how much people spend while there. In conversations, word choice can prime reactions. If someone uses positive words like success or achievement, listeners might feel more motivated. If the words focus on failure or risk, people might become more cautious. The speaker sets the tone through these subtle signals. Priming also works in learning. Teachers might show images or use examples related to the topic before explaining it. These cues prepare students' minds to understand and remember new information better. Sometimes, priming can shape social behavior. If a room has pictures of people cooperating, guests might act more friendly. If the images show competition, guests might be more competitive or guarded. The environment sets unconscious expectations. Because priming happens without awareness, it can be powerful but also tricky. People might make choices they don't fully understand. This is why marketers, leaders, and educators use it carefully. They design settings to encourage certain behaviors or feelings. Priming shows how much our surroundings affect us beyond conscious thought. Even small details can steer decisions and actions. Being aware of priming helps us understand why we sometimes behave unexpectedly. In short, priming is a quiet influence. It happens before we even realize it. Subtle cues set the stage for how we think, feel, and act. This unconscious process shapes much of our daily life. The "but you are free" hack is a simple way to get people to agree with a request by reminding them they have a choice. When you say, "but you are free to choose," you reduce pressure. This makes people feel more comfortable and more likely to say yes. Imagine you ask a neighbor to help watch your dog for the weekend. If you say, "Can you help me watch my dog this weekend?" they might hesitate. But if you add, "but you are free to choose," it sounds less demanding. The neighbor feels no pressure and is more open to agreeing. This hack works because people don't like feeling forced. When someone tries to control their actions, they resist. But when you remind them they have control, you ease their mind. This freedom boosts their willingness to comply. In one study, researchers asked people to donate money. When the request ended with, "but you are free to decide," more people gave money. The phrase lowered resistance by emphasizing choice, not obligation. In sales, a salesperson might say, "You can try this product today, but you are free to choose." This makes the customer feel in control, reducing the fear of being pushed. Customers respond better when they know the final decision is theirs. In everyday life, this hack helps in tough conversations. If you want a friend to join an event, you could say, "I'd love for you to come, but you are free to decide." This shows respect for their choice, making them more likely to say yes. Parents can use this with children too. Instead of ordering "eat your vegetables," they might say, "You can choose what to eat, but I recommend the vegetables." Giving the child freedom to decide reduces rebellion and encourages cooperation. The key is the wording. Simply saying, "You're free to choose," or "It's up to you," signals respect for autonomy. It avoids triggering resistance that comes from feeling controlled. This hack relies on a basic human need to feel in control. When people feel free, they relax and listen more. They don't feel pushed, so they respond positively. It's important that this phrase feels genuine. If someone uses it just to trick others, it can backfire. People notice when freedom is fake. Using the phrase sincerely builds trust. The "but you are free" hack also works because it shifts focus. Instead of thinking about why they must comply, people think about what they want to do. This mental shift helps them choose cooperation. This simple phrase changes the tone of a request. It turns a demand into an invitation. It respects choice and values the other person's freedom. In short, telling someone they're free to choose lowers their defenses. It makes them more open and willing. This small phrase carries a big impact in getting cooperation without pressure. Reverse psychology works by suggesting the opposite of what you want. When you do this, people often react by doing what you actually want. It plays on the natural desire to resist being told what to do. Imagine a teenager who doesn't want to clean their room. If a parent says, "You probably won't clean your room today," the teenager may feel challenged. They might clean just to prove the parent wrong. By suggesting the opposite, the parent pushes the teen to act as desired. This technique works because people value their freedom. When someone tries to control their behavior, they push back. Reverse psychology taps into this by pretending to go along with resistance. It makes the other person feel in charge, which encourages cooperation. In sales, a salesperson might say, "This product isn't for everyone," implying that some customers might not be ready. This can make a customer curious or eager to prove they fit the product's image. The subtle challenge can boost interest and sales. In friendships, you might say, "I don't think you can handle this project," to motivate a friend. The friend may want to prove you wrong and take on the challenge. The suggestion pushes them to act in the way you want, without direct pressure. Reverse psychology relies on understanding the person. It works best with people who like to assert their independence or react against control. If used on someone who prefers direct guidance, it might confuse or frustrate them. Sometimes this technique can backfire. If the person senses the manipulation, they may distrust you or refuse to cooperate. It's important to use reverse psychology subtly and with care. In classrooms, teachers sometimes use this method. If a student resists reading, a teacher might say, "This book is really for older students." The student might want to read it to prove they are capable. The suggestion motivates without direct orders. In negotiations, saying, "You probably don't want this deal," can make the other side reconsider. It creates a psychological push to accept or improve the offer. The implied challenge encourages agreement. The key to using reverse psychology is in the delivery. The statement should sound natural and believable, not forced or sarcastic. If it feels fake, the other person will spot it and lose trust. This method also works better in casual or informal situations. In formal or serious contexts, direct communication is usually better. Reverse psychology can help in situations where direct requests fail. It offers a way to influence behavior by letting others feel they are making their own choices. In short, suggesting the opposite of what you want taps into people's desire to be independent. This makes them more likely to do what you actually want, often without realizing it. It's a subtle but effective way to guide decisions. Reframing means changing how you describe a situation to shift how people see it. By altering the perspective, you can turn a problem into an opportunity or a failure into a lesson. This change in description helps people feel differently and react in new ways. Imagine someone feels upset because they lost their job. Instead of saying, "You're unemployed and it's bad," you might say, "This is a chance to find something better that fits you." The new way of seeing the situation gives hope. It changes the story from loss to opportunity. Reframing works because our minds respond to how we interpret events. The facts stay the same, but the meaning changes. When you change the meaning, you change feelings and actions. This is powerful in conversations and problem solving. In work, managers use reframing to help employees handle challenges. If a team missed a deadline, the manager might say, "We learned a lot about what to improve." This frames the failure as a step toward growth. The team feels less discouraged and more motivated. Reframing also helps in personal life. If a friend is nervous about a big event, you might say, "You're excited to show what you can do." This shifts nervousness into positive energy. The change in perspective can reduce stress and build confidence. In sales, a product's price might seem high to a customer. A salesperson can reframe it by saying, "You're investing in quality that lasts longer." This moves the focus from cost to value. The customer sees the price as a benefit, not a drawback. Parents often use reframing with children. If a child complains about homework, a parent might say, "Homework helps your brain get stronger." The child sees the task as useful, not just a chore. This change can improve the child's attitude. Sometimes reframing involves changing words. Instead of problem, you say challenge. Instead of failure, you say lesson. These simple swaps can shift feelings from negativity to possibility. Reframing can calm conflicts too. If two people argue, one might say, "We both want the best outcome," which shifts the fight into a shared goal. This helps move the conversation from blame to cooperation. The key is to find a perspective that feels true but changes the emotional impact. It shouldn't ignore reality, but offer a new way to understand it. The new frame must fit the facts and make sense to the listener. Using reframing takes practice. You learn to listen carefully, spot stuck thinking, and suggest a fresh view. This skill makes communication clearer and more helpful. Reframing doesn't force someone to change their mind, but invites them to see things differently. This gentle shift opens the door to new ideas and solutions. In short, reframing shifts how people see situations by changing the description. This change alters feelings and reactions. It turns problems into opportunities and helps people move forward with a new outlook. Love bombing means giving someone a lot of attention, praise, or gifts all at once. The sudden and intense focus can make the other person feel special and important. Over time, it creates emotional dependence, where the person starts to rely on this attention to feel good. Imagine a new friend who showers you in compliments and messages constantly. At first, it feels flattering. You think they really care about you. They might send gifts or do favors, making you feel valued. This strong attention can build quickly, making it hard to step back or say no. This behavior often appears in relationships where one person wants to control the other. By overwhelming someone with kindness and gifts, the love bomber gains influence. The recipient may feel guilty or confused if the attention suddenly stops, which makes them try harder to keep the relationship going. For example, someone might say things like, "You are the most amazing person I've ever met," on the first day of meeting. They might call and text all day, wanting constant contact. These actions create a fast emotional bond, but it can hide deeper motives. Love bombing works because people naturally want connection and approval. When someone gives it in excess, the brain releases chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin, making the person feel happy and attached. This can lead to emotional dependence, where the person needs that intense attention to feel good about themselves. In some cases, love bombing is used to manipulate. After building trust with overwhelming attention, the bomber may start to control or criticize the other person. The sudden change confuses the victim, who often tries harder to regain the earlier affection. This pattern is common in abusive relationships. The cycle of extreme attention, followed by withdrawal, creates a push-pull dynamic. The person feels stuck, always chasing the love they once received. Love bombing is not always negative. Sometimes people express genuine excitement or care when they meet someone new. The difference lies in consistency and respect. Healthy relationships balance attention with space and respect for boundaries. Recognizing love bombing involves noticing how fast the relationship moves and how intense the attention feels. If it overwhelms you or makes you uncomfortable, it's important to pause and reflect. Healthy connections grow steadily and respect individual limits. If you suspect love bombing, trust your feelings. Feeling pressured, confused, or overly dependent are warning signs. Talking to trusted friends or professionals can help you see the situation clearly. In daily life, love bombing might show up as someone trying too hard to win favor quickly, whether in romance, friendship, or work. It can create a false sense of closeness that isn't real. In short, love bombing floods someone with attention and gifts to create strong emotional ties quickly. While it may seem caring at first, it often leads to dependence and control. Understanding this helps protect against unhealthy relationships and keep connections balanced. Nonverbal power poses are body positions that show confidence and strength. Standing or sitting in a way that takes up space helps you feel more powerful. It also changes how others see you. Using confident body language can improve your self-image and influence people around you. Imagine you walk into a room and stand tall with your shoulders back, feet apart, and hands on your hips. This pose shows you are sure of yourself. People notice your confidence before you say a word. They may listen more closely or treat you with more respect. Power poses work because body and mind connect. When you hold a strong, open posture, your brain senses confidence. This can reduce stress and increase feelings of control. You feel ready to face challenges. On the other hand, if you slouch or make yourself small, your brain picks up on signals of weakness or fear. In a job interview, using power poses before going in can help calm nerves. Taking a moment to stand like a leader, chest open, chin up, can boost your confidence. When you walk into the room, your body language supports how you feel inside. This makes a positive impression. Power poses also affect conversations. If you sit with arms open and lean slightly forward, it shows you are engaged and confident. People respond better to you. They see you as trustworthy and in charge. Closed or defensive postures, like crossed arms or looking down, can make others doubt you. Athletes use similar poses before competitions. Standing tall and stretching out helps prepare their minds and bodies. It signals readiness and strength. This simple change in posture can improve performance by increasing focus and lowering anxiety. At meetings or social gatherings, power poses help you stand out. Even small gestures like placing your hands on a table or leaning back with relaxed shoulders send signals of confidence. These cues influence how people react to you and how you feel. Using power poses doesn't mean acting aggressive or rude. It means adopting a posture that reflects calm confidence. It's about owning your space without threatening others. Balance is key. Too much can seem arrogant. Too little can seem unsure. Practice helps. You can try power poses in private before stressful situations. Stand tall in front of a mirror. Notice how it changes your mood. Over time, confident posture becomes natural. Non-verbal power poses are a tool to influence yourself and others. They prepare you mentally and physically for important moments. They shape the way people perceive your strength and leadership. In short, using confident body language through power poses boosts your self-confidence and changes how others see you. By holding strong, open postures, you signal control and readiness. This simple, silent communication can improve your success in many situations. Faux authority means acting, speaking, and dressing like an expert to gain respect and influence. Even without real expertise, presenting yourself as knowledgeable can make people listen and follow your lead. This works because people tend to trust those who look and act like they know what they're doing. Imagine you walk into a meeting dressed sharply in a suit, speaking clearly and confidently about a topic. People assume you have authority on the subject, even if you don't. Your appearance and manner create the impression of expertise. This impression shapes how others respond to you. Speaking with confidence is key to faux authority. Using clear, direct language shows you understand the topic. Avoiding hesitation or filler words like or maybe helps you sound sure. For example, saying this strategy will increase sales by 10% sounds stronger than, I think this might help sales a bit. Dressing the part also matters. People judge expertise based on looks. Wearing professional or role-appropriate clothing signals that you belong in that position. A person wearing a lab coat in a hospital or a uniform in a company office looks more credible than someone dressed casually. Body language supports faux authority too. Standing tall, making eye contact, and using controlled gestures show confidence. These nonverbal cues convince others that you know what you're talking about. In everyday life, faux authority shows up in different ways. A new manager might use strong speech and professional dress to gain respect from the team quickly. Even if the manager lacks experience, their confident presence influences how the team reacts. Salespeople use this tactic to build trust. A salesperson who looks polished and speaks clearly about a product seems more believable. Customers feel more comfortable buying from someone who appears knowledgeable and confident. Teachers or trainers can also use faux authority. When instructors present material clearly and act confidently, students trust their guidance. The teacher's appearance and tone set the tone for authority in the classroom. However, faux authority has limits. If you don't actually know the subject, people may eventually notice mistakes or gaps in your knowledge. Over time, real expertise matters more than appearances. Without substance, faux authority can lose power. There's also a risk of seeming fake or arrogant if the act feels forced. Genuine confidence blends with knowledge. The goal is not to deceive, but to present yourself clearly and professionally while building real skills. Using language precisely is part of faux authority. Avoid vague or uncertain terms. Speak with facts or clear ideas. For example, instead of "maybe this could work," say "this method has proven effective." In some situations, faux authority helps open doors. It makes people willing to listen, giving you a chance to prove your worth. First impressions of expertise can create opportunities that might not come otherwise. In short, faux authority means adopting the look, speech, and behavior of an expert to gain influence. Acting confidently and dressing appropriately helps others see you as knowledgeable. While real skill remains important, projecting authority can shape how people respond from the start. False scarcity means suggesting that something is in limited supply to make it seem more valuable. When people believe an item or opportunity is rare, they want it more. This sense of urgency pushes them to act quickly, often without thinking fully. Imagine a store advertising, "Only 5 items left in stock." Even if the store has many more, this message creates pressure. Customers rush to buy before it runs out. The idea of scarcity makes the product feel special and harder to get. This tactic works because people don't like missing out. The fear of losing a chance, called FOMO, fear of missing out, drives quick decisions. If something seems rare, we think it must be worth more. In online shopping, you often see countdown timers or messages like "sale ends soon." These suggest limited time and push buyers to act fast. Even if the deal lasts longer, the pressure influences behavior. False scarcity also shows up in ticket sales. Websites say only a few seats remain, encouraging people to buy quickly. The limited availability creates a sense of urgency and value. In everyday life, false scarcity might appear when a friend says, "This offer won't last," to encourage you to decide fast. The suggestion that the chance is rare makes it more tempting. This approach works because it changes how people think about value. If something is common, it feels less special. When it's rare, people attach higher worth to it. However, false scarcity can backfire if people discover the truth. If customers realize a company lied about limits, they may lose trust and stop buying. Honesty is important to keep credibility. False scarcity also influences behavior beyond buying. For example, if a class says, "Only a few spots left," students may register sooner. The perceived limit pushes them to commit. In negotiations, suggesting a deal is available for a short time can speed decisions. It creates a deadline that encourages agreement. Sometimes scarcity is real, like limited edition products. But false scarcity pretends the limit exists to boost appeal. This manipulation relies on creating a false sense of urgency. Using false scarcity requires subtlety. If it feels obvious or dishonest, people resist. The message must seem believable to work. False scarcity taps into basic human instincts about loss and value. We want to avoid missing opportunities, so scarcity signals importance. In short, false scarcity suggests something is limited to raise its value. The idea of rarity creates urgency and motivates quick action. This simple trick influences choices by playing on the fear of missing out. Pre-suasion means setting the stage to influence someone before you ask for something. It's about preparing their mind so they are more likely to say yes when you make your request. Instead of just focusing on the request itself, you guide attention and feelings ahead of time. Imagine you want a coworker to help with a project. Before asking, you might start by talking about teamwork and how much you appreciate their skills. This puts them in a positive, cooperative mood. When you finally ask for help, they are more open because you prepared their mindset. Pre-suasion works by directing focus. What people think about just before a request affects how they respond. If you lead their thoughts towards something positive or related, it builds a mental connection to your ask. For example, a charity might first share stories about people who need help. These stories create feelings of empathy. When the donation request comes, people are already feeling caring and willing to give. In sales, a salesperson might ask questions that get customers to think about their needs or problems. This shifts attention to what the product can solve. By the time the salesperson offers the product, the customer is more ready to buy. Pre-suasion can also use the environment. A restaurant might play soft music and dim lights to make people feel relaxed and spend more. Before asking for payment or encouraging tips, the setting influences mood and behavior. In everyday conversations, pre-suasion shows up when you frame topics carefully. If you want to discuss a difficult issue, starting with a positive comment or common ground makes the other person more receptive. You prepare their mind to listen, not resist. Timing matters in pre-suasion. The preparation must happen just before the request to be most effective. If too much time passes, the influence fades. The right moment keeps focus sharp and ready. Language also plays a role. Using words that create positive images or emotions helps. For instance, saying, "Imagine how great it will feel to finish this," primes the listener to think about success, not struggle. Pre-suasion works quietly but powerfully. It doesn't force agreement, but makes the listener more open. It respects free choice while gently guiding the response. This technique shows that influence begins before you even speak the main request. What you say or do just before shapes how people think and feel. It's about creating the right mental environment for your message. In short, pre-suasion means influencing someone before asking. By preparing their focus and feelings ahead of time, you increase the chance of a positive response. This subtle shift in attention makes your request easier to accept. Loss aversion framing means presenting information by focusing on what someone will lose if they don't act. People dislike losing something more than they like gaining something of equal value. By framing consequences as losses, you motivate action and prompt faster decisions. Imagine you want a friend to join a fitness program. Instead of saying, "You could gain health and energy by joining," you say, "If you don't join, you risk losing your current fitness and feeling tired." The second statement pushes harder because it highlights what they might lose, not just what they could gain. This approach works because people naturally try to avoid losses. Losing feels worse than winning feels good. When you emphasize the downside of not acting, you trigger a stronger emotional response that drives people to act. For example, insurance companies use this framing. Instead of saying, "You might benefit from insurance," they say, "Without insurance, you risk losing your savings in an accident." The threat of losing money feels more urgent than the chance to gain protection. In sales, telling customers, "If you don't buy now, the price will go up," makes them more likely to buy quickly. The idea of losing a lower price creates pressure. This is stronger than simply saying, "Buy now to save money." Loss aversion also appears in health. Doctors might say, "If you don't take your medication, your condition could worsen," instead of "Taking medication will improve your health." The risk of losing health motivates patients to follow advice more than the promise of gain. In negotiations, framing offers as avoiding losses can push agreement. Saying, If we don't settle now, we both lose valuable time and money, focuses on what's at risk. This encourages cooperation because no one wants to lose. People respond more quickly when they fear loss. If a deadline approaches, highlighting what they will miss out on if they don't act creates urgency. For example, register by Friday or lose your spot triggers faster decisions than register soon to secure your spot. This framing is effective because it taps into a deep part of human psychology. Avoiding loss is a survival instinct. It shapes choices in money, health, relationships, and work. However, it's important to be honest. Exaggerating losses can backfire and damage trust. Clear, truthful framing respects the person's intelligence and builds credibility. In everyday life, loss aversion framing helps in small ways. Telling a friend, if you don't call back, you might miss the chance to meet up, encourages action better than call back when you can. The wording also matters. Use simple, clear language that highlights what could be lost. Avoid complicated or vague terms that confuse the message. In short, loss aversion framing focuses on what people risk losing if they don't act. This triggers stronger motivation than focusing on gains alone. By showing the downside clearly, you encourage faster, more committed responses. Pre-suasion means preparing someone's mind before you make a request. It's about setting the stage so they are more likely to say yes. Instead of jumping straight to the ask, you guide their attention and feelings first. Imagine you want a coworker to help with a project. Before asking, you start by praising their teamwork skills and how much you value working together. This puts them in a positive mood and makes them more open to your request. When you finally ask for help, they are more willing because you prepared their mindset. Pre-suasion works by directing what people focus on. What they think about just before you ask influences how they respond. If you lead them to think about something good or related, it creates a mental connection with your request. For example, a charity might first share stories about people in need. These stories create feelings of empathy. When the donation request comes, people are already feeling caring and ready to give. In sales, a salesperson might ask questions about the customer's problems. This shifts the customer's attention to their needs and what the product can solve. By the time the product is offered, the customer is more prepared to buy. The environment can also support pre-suasion. A restaurant might play soft music and dim the lights to help guests relax and enjoy their meal. Before asking for a tip or payment, the setting shapes mood and behavior. In everyday talks, pre-suasion appears when you carefully choose how to start a conversation. If you want to bring up a tough topic, beginning with a positive comment or something you both agree on makes the other person more willing to listen. You prepare their mind to hear you, not reject you. Timing is important in pre-suasion. The preparation must happen just before the request to be most effective. The effect weakens. The right moment keeps focus clear and ready. Words also matter. Using phrases that create positive images or feelings helps. Saying something like, "Imagine how good it will feel to finish this," primes the listener to think about success, not struggle. Pre-suasion doesn't force agreement. It gently opens the listener's mind. It respects their freedom to choose while guiding their response. This method shows that influence starts before the main message. What you say or do just before shapes how people think and feel. It creates the right mindset for your request. In short, pre-suasion means influencing someone before you ask. By preparing their focus and feelings ahead, you raise the chance of a yes. This subtle shift makes your request easier to accept. Pacing and leading is a way to connect with someone by first matching their current feelings or thoughts, then guiding them toward a new idea or action. It works because people trust others who understand their situation before suggesting change. Imagine you're talking to a friend who feels stressed about work. Instead of immediately telling them to relax or see the bright side, you start by acknowledging their feelings. You might say, "I see you've been under a lot of pressure lately." This matches their reality. Once they feel heard, you can gently lead with something like, "Maybe taking a short break could help you clear your mind." Because you first pace their experience, your advice feels more natural and less pushy. Pacing means observing and reflecting where the other person is emotionally or mentally. You mirror their tone, words, or body language to show empathy and build trust. This step is about acceptance, not correction. Leading comes after pacing. Once the other person feels understood, you introduce your perspective or suggestion. Because you built rapport by pacing, they are more likely to follow your lead without resistance. In sales, a salesperson might start by agreeing with a customer's concerns, like, "I know this product seems expensive." This matches the customer's feelings. Then the salesperson leads by explaining the product's long-term value. The customer, feeling understood first, listens more openly. In parenting, a parent might say, "I see you're upset because you can't have that toy." That's pacing. Then the parent leads by offering, "How about we play a fun game instead?" This helps the child shift from disappointment to engagement. Pacing and leading also works in teaching. A teacher might start by acknowledging a student's frustration with a topic. "I know this math problem looks tough." Then the teacher leads by breaking it down step by step, guiding the student toward understanding. This method respects the other person's current state. It avoids pushing change too soon, which can cause resistance. Instead, it gently moves the conversation forward. Tone matters in pacing and leading. Matching someone's voice, speed, and mood helps them feel you're on their side. Then a calm, confident shift in tone signals leadership and direction. Timing is important. Leading too early can feel like ignoring or dismissing feelings. Leading too late might miss the chance to influence. The transition from pacing to leading should feel smooth and natural. Using pacing and leading takes awareness and patience. It means listening carefully and choosing your moment to introduce new ideas. In short, pacing and leading means first matching someone's reality to build trust, then guiding them toward your point of view. This approach makes change feel easier and cooperation more likely. The anchoring effect happens when you mention a high or extreme price or value first to influence how people judge what comes next. This initial number sets a reference point, or anchor, in their minds. After hearing this anchor, people compare other prices or values to it, which changes their perception. Imagine you want to sell a car. You first mention a very high price, like $50,000, even if you plan to sell it for less. When you then offer the car for $40,000, the buyer thinks it is a good deal because they compare it to the higher price they heard first. That $50,000 anchors their judgment, making $40,000 seem reasonable. This works because people rely on the first number they hear to make decisions. Even if the first number is unrelated or exaggerated, it still influences how they see later information. The brain uses the anchor as a starting point for comparison. In shopping, stores use anchoring by showing the original price next to a sale price. If a jacket is marked as $200 but now sells for $120, customers feel they save a lot. The $200 is the anchor. Without it, $120 might seem expensive. Anchoring does not only apply to money. It can affect how people judge time, quantity, or quality. For example, a waiter might say, "Our special steak costs $50, then mention a $30 dish. The $50 price anchors the customer, making $30 seem more affordable. In negotiations, you can use anchoring by starting with an extreme offer. If you want to buy a house for $300,000, you might first suggest $350,000. Even if the seller rejects it, your actual offer seems more reasonable compared to the higher anchor. Anchoring also happens in everyday talks. If you ask someone, "Do you want to work 10 hours this week?" you set 10 as the anchor. If they say no, you might then suggest 6 hours. The 10-hour anchor makes 6 hours sound easier to accept. Sometimes anchors come from numbers people hear in the news or online. For example, hearing that a new phone costs $1,000 sets an anchor for what to expect. If you later find a phone for $800, it feels cheaper because of that first number. Anchoring is powerful but can mislead. People might accept a high price or value without questioning it because the anchor biases their judgment. That is why it is important to be aware when anchors influence decisions. To use anchoring well, introduce a number that supports your goal first. Make sure it is believable enough to set the frame for comparison. Then offer the actual number you want people to accept. In short, the anchoring effect shapes judgment by starting with an extreme or high number. This first number sets a reference that changes how people see all that follows. It helps steer choices by influencing what feels normal or fair. Token rejection means pretending to say no or show hesitation when offered something, to make that offer seem more valuable. By acting like you are unsure or reluctant, you create a sense that the thing being offered is worth more because it appears harder to get. Imagine a friend offers to lend you a book. Instead of accepting right away, you say, "I'm not sure if I have time to read it." This small refusal makes the friend think you value the book more because you are considering carefully. It also makes your eventual acceptance feel like a choice, not just something given freely. This technique works because people tend to want what feels rare or difficult to get. When you reject an offer even a little, it signals that you don't take it for granted. That signal increases the perceived value of the offer in both your mind and the other person's. In sales, a customer might hesitate when a product is offered, saying, "I'm not sure if this fits my needs." The salesperson responds by highlighting the product's unique benefits. The initial hesitation creates room for the product to seem more special, and the customer may end up more committed. Token rejection can also happen in negotiations. If you pretend to resist a deal, you show you have options and are not desperate. This stance can push the other side to offer better terms. Small refusal makes the deal feel more valuable because you are not just accepting it right away. In social situations, if someone offers you help, a polite refusal like "Thanks, but I think I can manage" signals independence. This makes the offer more meaningful if you later accept it because it shows you chose it carefully. This tactic works best when the rejection is small and polite, not a firm or rude refusal. A token rejection is a brief pause or doubt, not a complete no. It shows you are thoughtful, not dismissive. Pretending to resist also helps balance power. If you accept everything immediately, you may seem too eager or needy. A token rejection creates respect and shows you value the offer. For example, when someone invites you to an event, instead of saying yes immediately, you might say, "I'll have to check my schedule." This moment of hesitation makes the invitation feel more important and your acceptance more genuine. Token rejection can make offers feel more special because it breaks the routine of easy yes or no answers. It adds a little drama and thoughtfulness that captures attention. Using this technique requires honesty about your feelings. If you pretend too much or for the wrong reasons, it can feel insincere and harm relationships. The goal is to show respect and consideration, not to manipulate. In short, token rejection means lightly refusing or hesitating to increase the value of an offer. By acting like you think carefully before accepting, you make both yourself and the offer seem more valuable. This subtle move builds respect and appreciation in many situations. Gaslighting is a harmful tactic where someone makes another person doubt their own reality or feelings. It happens when a person denies facts, memories, or experiences, causing the other to question what is true. This behavior is dangerous and unethical because it breaks trust and harms mental health. Imagine a partner who repeatedly says, "You're just imagining things," whenever you point out a problem. Over time, you start to wonder if you're remembering events correctly or if your feelings are valid. This doubt creates confusion and lowers your confidence. Gaslighting can take many forms. It might involve denying things that happened, twisting facts, or blaming the victim for problems. For example, if someone forgets an important event but insists they never promised, they make the other person question their memory. In the workplace, a boss might gaslight an employee by telling them, "You missed that deadline," when the employee knows they met it. The boss's false statement can make the employee doubt their work and feel insecure. Gaslighting often happens slowly. It starts with small lies or dismissals and grows over time. The victim becomes unsure of their perceptions and may rely more on the gaslighter's version of reality. This tactic creates power imbalance. The gaslighter gains control by undermining the victim's confidence. The victim may feel trapped and less able to speak up or trust themselves. In families, gaslighting can appear when one member blames another for feelings or problems that are actually the gaslighter's fault. Saying things like, "You're too sensitive," or "that never happened," denies the other person's experience and creates self-doubt. Recognizing gaslighting is important. Signs include frequent confusion, feeling crazy, apologizing often, or doubting your own memory. If you notice these, it helps to talk to trusted friends or professionals who can support your perspective. Gaslighting can cause long-term harm. It affects mental health by increasing anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. The victim might lose trust in their judgment and struggle with decision-making. The key to countering gaslighting is to trust your feelings and memories. Keep notes or records of events if needed. Seek outside opinions to confirm your reality. Gaslighting is never a healthy way to communicate. Respect means accepting others' experiences and being honest, even in disagreement. In short, gaslighting makes someone doubt their own reality. It is a dangerous and unfair way to control or manipulate others. Recognizing it helps protect your mental health and relationships. Attention loops happen when someone gets stuck in a pattern of thoughts or emotions that keep repeating. These loops can cause stress or negative feelings because the person keeps focusing on the same problem or worry. To help, you can break the loop by interrupting the pattern and resetting their focus. Imagine a friend who keeps worrying about a mistake they made at work. They replay it in their mind over and over. Instead of letting them stay stuck, you might change the subject or suggest a new activity. This breaks their attention loop and shifts their mind away from the worry. Attention loops often happen because the brain gets caught on strong emotions or repetitive thoughts. When the same idea runs in a loop, it can feel hard to move on. This can happen with anxiety, anger, or even excitement. Breaking an attention loop means disrupting the normal emotional cycle. This can be done by introducing something unexpected or different. For example, if someone is upset and repeats their complaint, you might ask a surprising question or tell a story that shifts their focus. This stops the loop and resets the conversation. In classrooms, teachers use this when a student is stuck on a problem or distracted. The teacher might change the activity or ask a new question to redirect the student's attention. This helps the student move forward and stay engaged. In relationships, attention loops can cause arguments to go in circles. One partner repeats the same point, and the other responds the same way. Breaking the loop could mean stepping back, changing the tone, or bringing up a new topic. This prevents the argument from escalating. Using humor or a calm voice can also break attention loops. When emotions run high, a gentle joke or soft tone interrupts the pattern and lowers tension. Attention loops don't always need to be stopped immediately. Sometimes, acknowledging the loop helps. Saying something like, "I see this is really on your mind," shows understanding before gently shifting focus. This technique works because our brains respond to novelty, New or unexpected things grab attention and pull people out of repetitive thoughts. The key is to offer something different without dismissing feelings. Breaking attention loops is a way to help people regain control over their thoughts and emotions. It supports better decision-making and reduces stress. In daily life, you might notice attention loops when someone keeps talking about the same problem or feeling stuck in worry. Recognizing these moments lets you gently intervene. In short, attention loops trap people in repeated thoughts or feelings. By disrupting these loops with something new or different, you help reset their focus and break the cycle. This simple shift can improve how people feel and respond. Default setting exploit means arranging options so the choice you want is the automatic one, or the default. When people face a decision, they often stick with the default because it takes less effort. By setting the default to your preferred outcome, you increase the chance people will follow it without resistance. Imagine a website that offers a free trial for a service. When you sign up, the subscribe after trial option is already checked. Most people don't change this default and end up subscribing. The website uses the default setting to steer users toward paying. This works because making a choice requires energy. People often choose the path of least resistance. If the default is set to what you want, many will go along without thinking twice. It's easier to accept the default than to change it. Governments and companies use this in many ways. For example, some countries enroll citizens automatically in retirement savings plans. If people want to opt out, they must take action. Because the default is enrollment, more people save money for retirement than if they had to opt in. In online forms, pre-filled options steer users. A checkbox for Receive newsletter might be checked by default. This increases subscriptions because many don't uncheck it. The default favors the company's goal. This method also appears in software settings. When you install a program, the default options guide you towards certain features. If you accept defaults, you get the intended setup. Changing defaults requires extra effort. In stores, products placed at eye level become the default choice for shoppers. They grab these products more often because they are easier to see and reach. The store uses placement to set the default option visually. Default setting exploit can also influence habits. For instance, if your computer defaults to saving files in one folder, you use that folder more often. The default choice shapes your behavior quietly. Using this tactic requires understanding what people are likely to accept as default. The setting must feel normal and easy. If the default seems strange or complicated, people may reject it. This exploit is powerful, but needs ethical use. People should have a clear option to choose differently if they want. Making the default too rigid or hidden can harm trust. In everyday life, you can use default settings to encourage good habits. For example, setting a daily reminder on your phone as the default helps build routines because you don't have to think about it each time. In short, default setting exploit means setting the automatic option to what you want people to choose. Since many accept defaults, this method shapes behavior by making your preferred choice the easiest one. It influences decisions simply by managing what comes first. Guilt tripping means making someone feel responsible for your feelings, often to get them to do what you want. Instead of clearly asking for help or expressing your needs, you imply that their actions or choices cause your sadness, disappointment, or hurt. This subtle pressure can lead people to act out of guilt rather than genuine willingness. Imagine a friend who says, "I guess you don't care about me since you forgot my birthday." The friend is not just telling you how they feel, they are suggesting your forgetting shows you don't care. This puts you in a position where you might feel guilty and try harder to prove you do care. This tactic works because people generally don't like feeling responsible for others' pain. When someone hints that you caused their unhappiness, you often want to fix it quickly, even if you don't agree or feel the same way. In families, guilt tripping is common. A parent might say, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me," implying the child owes them. The child may comply out of guilt, even if the request feels unfair. Guilt tripping can appear in relationships too. A partner might say, "I stayed home all weekend waiting for you, and you didn't call," to suggest neglect. This statement shifts responsibility for their feelings onto the other person, encouraging an apology or attention. Sometimes guilt tripping hides behind phrases like, "I'm fine, but," which leads the listener to assume they caused a problem. The person doesn't openly blame, but the message is clear. You are responsible for my feelings. This tactic can damage trust because it manipulates emotions instead of encouraging honest communication. When guilt replaces clear requests or discussions, people may feel pressured rather than respected. It is important to recognize guilt tripping. Signs include feeling blamed for someone else's mood or feeling like you must act to stop their sadness. If you notice these, take a step back and think about whether you truly caused the problem. Healthy communication means expressing feelings without assigning blame. Saying, "I felt hurt when you forgot my birthday," shares emotions honestly. It invites understanding without forcing guilt. Guilt tripping often backfires over time. People may start avoiding the person who uses it or feel resentful. True cooperation comes from respect, not emotional pressure. In workplaces, guilt tripping might sound like, "I worked late for you, and now you can't help me?" This can create tension instead of teamwork. Clear requests work better than emotional manipulation. In short, guilt tripping subtly makes others responsible for your feelings to influence their actions. It pressures people through emotion rather than honest conversation. Recognizing it helps maintain healthy, respectful relationships. The yes ladder is a technique that guides someone to say yes to a series of simple questions before asking the main request. By getting small agreements first, you build momentum. When the big question comes, the person is more likely to say yes because they are already in a pattern of agreeing. Imagine you want a coworker to help you with a project. Instead of asking directly, you start with easy questions like, "Do you have experience with this software?" Or "Have you worked on similar tasks before?" Each time they say yes, they become more comfortable agreeing. Then you ask, "Would you be willing to help me on this project?" Since they've already said yes a few times, they are more likely to agree again. This works because saying yes creates a sense of consistency. People like to appear reliable, so once they agree to small things, they want to keep agreeing. It's a natural pattern that helps decisions flow smoothly. Salespeople use the yes ladder often. They begin by asking questions that are easy to say yes to, like, "Do you want to save money?" Or, "Is quality important to you?" These lead to the real question, such as buying a product or service. The sequence makes the final yes feel like the natural next step. The yes ladder also works in everyday conversations. If you want a friend to join you for an event, you might first ask, "Do you like that kind of music?" Or, "Have you been to that venue before?" After agreeing, your friend is more likely to say yes to coming along. Teachers use this method too. They ask simple questions that students can answer easily to build confidence. Once students say yes to these, they feel ready to tackle harder problems or tasks. The key is to start with questions that are true or easy for the person to agree with. If the questions feel forced or tricky, the person may resist. The goal is to create a comfortable rhythm of agreement. Timing matters as well. The questions should come close together so the person stays in the agreeing mindset. Waiting too long can break the flow. Using the yes ladder requires listening carefully. You want to ask questions that fit the situation and the person's experiences. It's not about tricking, but about guiding toward cooperation. For example, if you ask, "Do you enjoy working in teams?" followed by, "Do you think collaboration improves results?" you build a pattern. Then you can ask, "Would you be willing to lead this group project?" The earlier yeses make the last question easier to accept. In short, the yes ladder builds a chain of small agreements that leads to a bigger yes. It works by creating a natural flow of consent and helps people feel consistent in their choices. This simple approach improves the chances of getting a positive response. Create contrast means showing something extreme first so that what you really want to offer looks better by comparison. This technique works because our minds judge things relative to what we see right before. When you place a big or intense example first, the next option seems calmer, easier, or more reasonable. Imagine you are selling a car. You start by describing a luxury model with a very high price and lots of expensive features. The customer hears about leather seats, advanced technology, and a price tag of $70,000. After that, you talk about a standard model with fewer features priced at $40,000. Compared to the luxury car, the standard one seems affordable and practical. This works because people rarely judge value in isolation. Instead, they compare one option against another. The luxury car sets a high reference point, making the regular car look like a good deal. Create contrast also appears in real estate. A realtor might first show a large, expensive house that is beyond the buyer's budget. Then they show a smaller, more modest home. The second home feels more reasonable because it follows the expensive one. In negotiations, you can use contrast by presenting a high initial demand. If you want to sell something for $500, you might first suggest $700. When you lower the price, the buyer sees it as a discount and a better offer. Contrast works in everyday situations too. If you want a friend to pick a restaurant for dinner, you might first suggest an expensive place. When your friend hears a cheaper option next, it feels like a smart choice. This technique plays on how the brain quickly adjusts to what it sees first. The first example becomes a mental benchmark. Anything less extreme that follows seems easier to accept. Creating contrast doesn't mean lying or exaggerating. It's about choosing the right examples or options to show. The initial example should be real but set high or intense so the real offer shines next. Timing matters. You want to present the contrast options close together so the comparison is fresh. If too much time passes, the effect weakens. The way you describe the first option influences the impact. Use clear and detailed language to make it feel significant. Then describe your real offer in simpler, calmer terms to highlight its appeal. For example, in clothing sales, showing a designer jacket with a very high price before a well-made, affordable coat makes the second jacket look like a smart buy. In short, creating contrast means showing something extreme first so your actual offer looks better. This simple comparison shifts perception and makes your real option feel more attractive and reasonable. Projection confusion happens when someone accuses others of the very things they are doing themselves. This tactic creates doubt and confusion, making it harder for the other person to defend themselves or see the truth clearly. It's a way to shift blame and control the conversation by turning attention away from the real issue. Imagine a person who often lies, but when caught, they say, "You don't tell the truth either." This accusation makes the other person question their honesty or feel guilty, even if they have been truthful. The real problem, the liar's behavior, gets buried under the false claim. This tactic works because it causes confusion. When someone is accused of something they didn't do, they might spend time trying to explain or defend themselves. Meanwhile, the accuser avoids responsibility. It also forces the accused to question their own thoughts and feelings, which weakens their position. Projection confusion is common in arguments. If one person is being unfair or aggressive, they might accuse the other of being hostile. This flips the situation and makes it harder to see who started the conflict. In workplaces, a manager who micromanages but tells employees they are too controlling uses projection confusion. Employees might start doubting their own actions, wondering if they really are controlling, while the manager avoids criticism. Sometimes this happens in friendships or families. If someone is being selfish but accuses others of selfishness, it disrupts trust. The person being accused may feel confused and question their own behavior. Projection confusion can damage relationships because it breaks clear communication. Instead of addressing problems honestly, it muddies the waters. People feel unsure what is true, which increases tension. Recognizing this tactic helps protect yourself. If you notice someone accusing you of what they do, step back and consider the pattern. Look at the facts and trust your experience. Don't get drawn into unnecessary self-doubt. When responding, stay calm and focus on clear facts. Avoid returning accusations. Instead, point out the behavior calmly, like saying, "I hear your concern, but I think we should focus on the actual issue." Projection confusion shows how people use blame to avoid accountability. It's a form of manipulation that relies on turning the spotlight away from one's own actions. In short, projection confusion means accusing others of your own behavior to confuse and distract. It shifts blame and weakens honest communication. Knowing this helps keep conversations clear and fair. Act as if means behaving like you already have the mindset, habits, or identity you want. By acting this way, you often start to feel and become that person over time. This approach works because our actions influence how we think and see ourselves. Imagine you want to be more confident, but don't feel that way yet. Acting as if confident means standing tall, speaking clearly, and making eye contact, even if you feel nervous inside. Over time, this behavior helps your brain accept confidence as part of who you are. This method taps into the connection between body and mind. When you change your actions, your feelings and beliefs often follow. By faking confidence, optimism, or calmness, you gradually build those qualities for real. For example, a person nervous about public speaking might practice acting as if they are relaxed and in control. They smile, use steady gestures, and speak with clear voice during practice. These actions help reduce anxiety and create real confidence when speaking in front of an audience. Athletes often use this idea. Before a competition, they imagine and act like winners. They visualize success, follow routines, and behave with focus and calm. This as-if mindset prepares them to perform better. In work, acting as if means showing professionalism even if you're new or unsure. Dressing neatly, meeting deadlines, and communicating clearly can make you feel more capable. Over time, this builds your reputation and self-assurance. Relationships benefit too. If you want to be a good listener, act as if you care deeply. You maintain eye contact, nod, and respond thoughtfully. These behaviors help you become genuinely engaged and improve your connection with others. The key is to start small and be consistent. Acting as if doesn't mean pretending all the time, but practicing new behaviors until they feel natural. It's about creating habits that shape your identity. Sometimes people worry acting as if is dishonest, but it's not about lying. It's about choosing to act in ways that support your goals and growth. This positive acting guides your mind to match your behavior. For example, if you want to be healthier, acting as if a healthy person means choosing better food, exercising regularly, and getting enough sleep. These actions build habits that lead to real change. This technique works because the brain looks for consistency. When your actions don't match your old beliefs, it adjusts to reduce the gap. Acting as if creates that needed gap for growth. In short, acting as if means behaving like the person you want to be. By faking the mindset or habits, you often become that person. This simple shift between action and identity helps you change how you think and feel about yourself. Word substitution means replacing words that carry strong negative emotions with more neutral terms. This change in language can soften the impact of what you say, making conversations less tense and more productive. By choosing calmer words, you help others stay open and focused instead of becoming defensive or upset. Imagine telling a coworker, "You made a big mistake on this report." The word mistake feels harsh and might cause embarrassment or anger. Instead, Saying, "There's an issue with the report we need to fix," sounds less critical. The neutral word issue lowers the emotional charge and encourages cooperation. This technique works because words carry emotional weight. Negative terms trigger feelings that can block understanding or collaboration. When you substitute these words with milder ones, you reduce the emotional barrier. For example, in a customer service call, saying, "I understand your frustration," acknowledges feelings without blame. If the customer says, "This product is terrible," the representative might reply, "I see you're facing challenges with the product." The word challenges is less sharp and opens space for a solution. Parents often use word substitution to calm children. Instead of saying, "You are being bad," a parent might say, "Let's try to make better choices." This shifts the focus from judgment to improvement and keeps the child engaged rather than upset. In conflicts, word substitution helps prevent escalation. If someone says, "You ignored me," replying with, "I didn't realize you needed my attention," avoids accusing language. It helps move the conversation forward instead of creating more tension. Choosing neutral words also helps in self-talk. Instead of thinking, "I failed," saying, "I didn't succeed this time," sounds less harsh. This softer language reduces stress and keeps motivation up. The key is to pick words that describe the situation clearly, but without adding negative judgment. For example, use concern instead of complaint, difference instead of problem, or adjustment instead of error. These words keep the meaning but soften the tone. Word substitution does not mean avoiding honesty. It means delivering truth with care. Honest feedback can still be clear while using neutral terms that encourage positive response. In workplaces, managers who substitute harsh words create better teamwork. Saying, "We have areas to improve," instead of "You did a poor job," keeps the focus on growth and helps employees stay open to feedback. Sometimes, simple word changes can change how people feel and act. For example, saying, "Let's revisit this topic," instead of "You're wrong," invites discussion rather than shutting it down. In short, word substitution replaces emotionally charged words with neutral ones to ease communication. This technique reduces defensiveness and builds understanding, making conversations calmer and more effective. Double binds happen when you give someone two choices and both lead to the outcome you want. Instead of asking a yes or no question, you frame the options so no matter what they pick, they move toward your goal. This makes it easier to guide decisions without forcing anyone. Imagine you want a coworker to join a meeting. Instead of asking, "Will you come?" you say, "Do you want to join us at 10 or 11? Both choices mean they will attend. The coworker feels in control, but you still get the outcome you want. This works because people like having options. When you offer a choice between two things, they feel respected and free to decide. At the same time, you steer the decision where you want it to go. Salespeople often use double binds. For example, they might ask, "Would you prefer the blue model or the red one?" The customer decides the color, but has already agreed to buy. The choice is about style, not whether to buy. In parenting, a parent might say, "Do you want to do your homework before or after dinner?" The child chooses when, but still ends up doing the homework. This approach avoids direct commands and reduces resistance. Double binds also work in negotiations. If you want a client to accept your offer, you might say, "Would you like the standard package or the premium one?" The client feels they have control, but you have already guided them to buy something. This method respects autonomy while guiding decisions. It avoids making people feel trapped because they do get to choose. The key is that both options lead to the outcome you want. It's important the choices feel genuine. If people notice you're limiting their options unfairly, they may resist. The options should be similar enough to give a real sense of control. In daily conversations, double binds help when you want to encourage action without pressure. For example, asking the friend, "Shall we meet for coffee in the morning or afternoon?" sets up a plan without a yes or no pressure. Double binds can also help with habits. Saying, "Do you want to take a 10-minute walk now or after lunch?" encourages activity while letting the person decide timing. This technique works best when the options are clear and easy to choose between. Confusing choices can frustrate or stall decisions. In short, double binds offer two choices that both lead to your goal. This lets people feel free while guiding their decisions. It's a simple but effective way to influence without pressure. Labeling means giving someone a positive trait or identity and encouraging them to live up to it. When you tell someone they are responsible, kind, or capable, they often try to act that way. This simple idea works because people want to match how others see them. Imagine a teacher telling a student, "You are a hard worker." The student hears this and starts to believe it. They put in more effort to keep being that hard worker. The label gives them a reason to stay motivated and proud of their actions. This technique relies on people's desire for consistency. When others assign a positive trait, people want to keep behaving in a way that fits that label. It helps build identity and confidence. For example, if a parent says to a child, "You are thoughtful," the child may try harder to show kindness and care. The label encourages good behavior without direct commands or pressure. Labeling also works in teams. If a manager says, "You are reliable and the key to our success," employees feel valued and responsible. This recognition boosts their commitment and performance. In friendships, labeling can strengthen bonds. Compliments like, "You're a great listener," make people want to maintain that role. It encourages positive interaction and trust. The key is to use honest and meaningful labels. If the label feels fake or undeserved, it won't work. People notice when praise is not sincere and may reject the label. Labels can also help in personal growth. Telling yourself, "I am organized," can guide your actions to become more orderly. Self-labeling shapes habits and mindset. Sometimes labels help with difficult tasks. Saying, "You are brave for facing this challenge," supports courage and reduces fear. The positive identity makes tough situations easier. Labeling differs from flattery because it focuses on real qualities or potential. It points to strengths people can believe in and develop. For example, a coach might say, "You're a natural leader," to inspire confidence in an athlete. This motivates the athlete to take charge and improve leadership skills. Using labels in communication creates a positive atmosphere. It builds respect and encourages cooperation without pressure or threats. In short, labeling assigns a positive trait to someone, helping them act in line with that identity. This simple tool shapes behavior and builds confidence by making people want to live up to the good image others see in them. Emotional hot reading means carefully noticing subtle signs in someone's behavior or words, and then reflecting those feelings back to them. By tuning into these small clues, you show understanding without the person having to explain everything. This connection helps build trust and makes people feel heard. Imagine you are talking with a friend who seems quiet and distracted. Instead of ignoring it, you say, "You seem a bit off today. Is something on your mind?" By picking up on their mood and mentioning it, you open the door for them to share. This shows you are paying attention and care about how they feel. This technique works because people often express feelings through small actions, like tone of voice, body language, or choice of words, without saying it outright. By reflecting these signals, you help them recognize and name their emotions, which can ease tension and create openness. For example, in a workplace meeting. If a colleague looks frustrated while discussing a project, you might say, "It sounds like this is causing you some stress." This simple acknowledgement shows empathy and encourages honest conversation. Emotional hot reading also happens in counseling or coaching. A counselor listens carefully for hesitation, sighs, or changes in speech and mirrors those feelings with statements like, You seem uncertain about this choice. This helps clients feel understood and more willing to explore their thoughts. In sales, a good salesperson pays attention to a customer's excitement or doubt. If the customer frowns when hearing a price, the salesperson might say, "I see you have some concerns about the cost." This shows awareness and opens a chance to address worries directly. The key to emotional hot reading is observation and subtlety. You don't guess wildly, but base your reflections on real cues. If your reading feels off or forced, it can make people uncomfortable or defensive. Timing matters too. Reflecting feelings at the right moment shows you are present and engaged. If you wait too long or interrupt, the effect weakens. This technique deepens communication because it moves beyond surface words. People often hide or struggle to explain emotions. By naming what you sense, you help them get closer to their own feelings and to you. Emotional hot reading isn't about mind reading or manipulation. It's about careful listening and genuine understanding. When done well, it strengthens relationships and builds trust. In daily life, you can practice this by noticing small signals, like a friend's quiet tone or a colleague's tense posture, and gently naming what you see. This invites connection and honest talk. In short, emotional hot reading means picking up on subtle emotional cues and reflecting them back. It helps others feel understood and opens the way for deeper communication. This simple skill creates trust and connection in many situations. Silence as power means using quiet moments in a conversation to gain control or influence. In high-stakes talks, staying silent at the right time can make others uncomfortable or encourage them to speak more. This quiet presence gives you an advantage without saying a word. Imagine you are negotiating a contract. After making your offer, you stay silent instead of filling the space with more words. The other side feels the pressure to respond and may lower their demands or agree faster. Your silence becomes a tool to guide the conversation. Silence works because people dislike awkward pauses. When there is silence, they want to fill it, often revealing more information or making concessions. Using silence strategically puts the focus on them and their response. In difficult conversations, silence shows confidence. If someone criticizes you and you don't react immediately, your quiet presence can calm the situation or make the other person rethink their words. Speaking too quickly or defensively might weaken your position. For example, during a job interview, if an interviewer asks a tough question, pausing before answering shows thoughtfulness. It makes your answer feel more considered and serious. This controlled silence helps you stand out as confident and composed. Silence also encourages listening. When you don't interrupt, others feel heard and respected. This can build trust and open communication. People often share more when you give them space to speak. Sometimes silence communicates disagreement without anger. You don't have to argue to make your point. Holding silence after a statement lets the other person feel the weight of what was said. Using silence effectively takes practice. It means knowing when to pause and when to speak. Too much silence can seem strange or rude, while too little can sound nervous or pushy. Body language matters during silence. Maintaining calm eye contact and relaxed posture reinforces your control. Avoid fidgeting or looking away, as these signs can weaken the power of silence. Silence as power is not about ignoring or avoiding conversation. It's about choosing moments to be quiet to gain influence. It shows you don't need to fill every space with words. In everyday life, you might use silence when a friend shares a problem. Instead of rushing to fix it, your quiet presence supports them. They feel your attention without pressure. In short, silence as power uses quiet moments to dominate conversations. It creates pressure, shows confidence, and encourages others to speak more. This simple, wordless tool can shift control in important talks. Social proof means showing that other people are doing something to encourage others to do the same. People often follow what the group does because it feels safe and right. This natural tendency helps explain why we trust reviews, recommendations, and crowds. Imagine you're at a busy restaurant. Seeing a long line outside suggests the food is good. You might decide to wait in line too, because many people chose to eat there. Their actions act as proof that the restaurant is worth it. This effect works because people look to others when they are uncertain. If many people choose something, it signals quality or popularity. We assume the crowd has made a good choice, so we follow. Online, social proof appears in reviews and ratings. Before buying a product, people read what others say. High ratings or many positive reviews increase trust and sales. If thousands of people like something, new customers feel safer buying it. In social media, likes, shares, and followers act as social proof. If a post has many likes, others are more likely to engage with it. The popularity suggests it's interesting or valuable. Social proof also works in events or classes. If many people sign up for a workshop, others see it as worthwhile and join. The number of participants creates confidence in the choice. In marketing, companies use social proof by showing testimonials or logos of well-known clients. These signals tell potential customers that others trust the brand. This encourages new customers to try the product or service. Social proof influences behavior in everyday life too. If you see a group of people watching something, you may stop to look as well. The group's attention directs your focus. This tendency helps people avoid mistakes by relying on the group's judgment. It also builds connection because following the herd feels like belonging. However, social proof isn't always correct. Sometimes crowds follow wrong or harmful ideas. That's why critical thinking matters, even when others seem sure. To use social proof effectively, show real examples of people choosing your idea or product. Authentic stories or numbers work best because people sense when something is fake. For example, a store might say, "Over 10,000 customers have bought this item," which boosts confidence. Or a speaker might mention, "Many experts support this method," to persuade the audience. Social proof can also encourage positive habits. If you tell someone, "Most people in your community recycle regularly," they might be more likely to recycle too. In short, social proof means showing that others are doing something so people follow along. It taps into the natural human need to trust the group and belong. This simple idea shapes many choices we make every day. The foot in the door technique means starting by asking for something small to increase the chances of getting a bigger request later. When someone agrees to a small favor, they feel more likely to say yes to a larger one. This happens because people want to stay consistent with their previous actions. Imagine you want your neighbor to help watch your house while you're away for a week. Instead of asking directly, you first ask if they can water your plants for a day. When they agree, you later ask if they could watch the house for the whole week. Since they already said yes to the smaller favor, they are more likely to agree to the bigger one. This technique works because agreeing to a small request makes people see themselves as helpful or cooperative. When the bigger request comes, saying no would feel inconsistent. To keep their self-image, they often say yes. Salespeople use this method too. It might ask if you want to try a free sample first. After you accept the sample, they ask you to buy the full product. Since you agreed to try it, you feel more comfortable buying it. In workplaces, a manager might start by asking an employee to complete a small task. Later, they request a bigger project. The initial agreement makes the employee more willing to take on the larger job. This approach also works in personal relationships. If you want a friend to join you for a weekend trip, you might first ask them to come for dinner. After they say yes to dinner, they are more likely to agree to the trip. The key is that the first request must be easy and reasonable. If it feels too big or demanding, people might refuse, and won't move on to the bigger request. Timing matters. The bigger request should come soon after the smaller one, so the person remembers their initial yes. Waiting too long can weaken the effect. Foot in the door is different from forcing or tricking someone. It respects the person's choice and builds trust by starting small. For example, a charity might first ask people to sign a petition. After signing, they ask for a donation. People who signed feel more involved and are more likely to donate. The technique works because people want to be consistent with their behavior and beliefs. Once they agree to something small, they try to keep that pattern going. In short, the foot in the door technique means making a small request first to increase the chance of agreement to a bigger request later. This simple step builds cooperation and makes people more likely to say yes. Assume familiarity means speaking as if you already know someone well, even if you've just met. This approach helps build rapport quickly because people respond to friendliness and trust. When you talk like you are close, others feel more comfortable and open to conversation. Imagine meeting a new colleague for the first time. Instead of formal small talk, you say, "Hey, good to see you again. How's your week going?" Acting as if you already have a connection makes the conversation relaxed and friendly. The colleague is more likely to respond warmly and feel at ease. This technique works because people naturally like being accepted and understood. When someone treats you like a friend, you feel valued. It breaks down barriers and speeds up trust building. In sales, a salesperson might greet a customer with, "It's great to see you back. Looking for the usual?" Even if the customer is new. This friendly approach makes them feel welcome and less like a stranger. It encourages conversation and opens the door to a sale. In social settings, assuming familiarity helps start conversations easily. For example, at a party, saying, "I was hoping I'd run into you," creates instant warmth. It makes the other person feel noticed and appreciated. This method doesn't mean pretending to be close in a fake way. It's about showing genuine friendliness and positive regard. People can tell if you're sincere, and genuine warmth encourages connection. Assuming familiarity also helps in leadership. A manager who speaks to employees like they are trusted team members builds respect and cooperation. Saying things like, "Let's tackle this together," includes everyone and builds a sense of belonging. Timing matters. It works best when used with open body language and eye contact. Your tone should be calm and confident, not rushed or forced. In everyday life, you can use this technique with neighbors, classmates, or strangers in line. Simple phrases like, "How's your day going?" or "Good to see you," assume friendliness and invite response. Sometimes, assuming familiarity helps ease tension. If someone is nervous or shy, your warm approach can make them relax and open up. The risk is moving too fast or overstepping boundaries. It's important to read the other person's response. If they seem uncomfortable, pull back and use more neutral language. For example, a waiter might say to a regular customer, "Back again? The usual?" This creates quick connection and shows the customer they are remembered and valued. In short, assuming familiarity means talking as if you already know someone well to build rapport quickly. It creates comfort and trust by showing friendliness and openness. When done sincerely, it helps conversations flow and relationships grow. Time constraint pressure means adding a deadline or countdown to encourage quick decisions. When people believe they have limited time to act, they feel urgency. This urgency pushes them to decide faster than they might otherwise. Imagine a store advertising a sale that ends in 2 hours. Customers see the ticking clock and feel they must buy now or miss out. The deadline creates pressure that speeds up buying decisions. Without the time limit, they might wait or think more before choosing. This technique works because people want to avoid losing opportunities. When time feels short, they focus on acting rather than delaying or doubting. The fear of missing out drives action. In online shopping, countdown timers show how long a deal lasts. This visible time limit motivates shoppers to complete their purchase quickly. The clock reminds them the offer won't be there forever. In negotiations, setting a deadline can push the other side to agree. Saying, "We need a decision by tomorrow," creates pressure. The deadline limits time for hesitation and encourages faster responses. Time constraint pressure also helps in meetings or projects. When a manager sets clear time limits, people focus better and make decisions faster. Without deadlines, discussions might drag on without results. Sometimes the deadline is real, like a registration cutoff. Other times, it's fake or flexible, but still creates urgency. For example, a salesperson might say, "This price is only available today, even if it lasts longer." Using this pressure well means the deadline feels believable. If people realize it's fake or exaggerated, trust can break down. Honesty about time limits maintains respect and long-term cooperation. In everyday life, time pressure helps with commitments. If you want a friend to RSVP, saying, "Please let me know by Friday," encourages a timely response. The pressure works because it narrows focus. When time is limited, people prioritize decisions. They are less likely to procrastinate or get distracted. However, too much pressure can backfire. If people feel rushed or stressed, they may refuse or react negatively. Balance is key. Deadlines should motivate, not overwhelm. For example, a ticket seller might say, "Only 5 seats left and the offer ends soon." This combines scarcity and time pressure, increasing the chance of a quick purchase. In short, time constraint pressure uses deadlines or countdowns to speed up decisions. By creating urgency, it encourages action before time runs out. When used honestly and carefully, it helps move conversations and sales forward efficiently. Verbal rehearsal means saying positive statements out loud to influence your thoughts and feelings more deeply. Speaking affirmations aloud helps your brain absorb them better than just thinking silently. This practice can boost confidence, reduce stress, and shape your mindset. Imagine you want to feel more confident before a presentation. You say out loud, "I am prepared and capable." Hearing yourself say this makes the message stronger. Your brain starts to believe it, which helps reduce nervousness and improve performance. This works because spoken words engage more senses than silent thoughts. When you say affirmations aloud, you hear your voice, feel your breath, and notice your body. These signals reinforce the message, making it more real. Athletes use verbal rehearsal to prepare for competition. They repeat phrases like, "I am strong and focused," before a game. This practice trains their mind to stay calm and confident under pressure. In therapy, people use verbal rehearsal to replace negative thoughts. Instead of thinking, "I can't do this," they say, "I am capable of handling challenges." Saying it aloud helps shift their mindset and build resilience. Verbal rehearsal works best when the affirmations are simple and positive. Statements like, "I am calm," "I can succeed," or "I handle stress well" are easy to remember and repeat. Consistency matters too. Saying affirmations regularly, such as daily or before specific events, helps the brain adopt new beliefs. Over time, these positive messages influence behavior and emotions. For example, before a job interview, you might say, "I am ready and confident." Repeating this aloud helps calm nerves and prepare your mind for success. Using verbal rehearsal also helps in learning new skills. Saying instructions or steps out loud improves focus and memory. For instance, a musician might say the notes or rhythm aloud while practicing. This technique is more effective when combined with clear intention. Saying affirmations without believing them is less powerful. The goal is to connect words with feelings and purpose. Verbal rehearsal is a tool for self-support. It allows you to guide your thoughts and emotions actively, rather than letting negative doubts take over. In everyday life, you might use it to boost motivation. Saying, "I am focused and productive," before starting work sets a positive tone and sharpens attention. In short, verbal rehearsal means saying affirmations aloud to influence your mind deeply. This simple practice strengthens positive beliefs and helps manage emotions, making it easier to face challenges with confidence. Bait and withhold is a tactic where someone gives love, approval, or attention, then suddenly pulls it away. This creates strong emotional ups and downs that can make the other person obsessed with winning back that approval. The uncertainty makes them focus more on the relationship or situation, hoping to get the positive feelings again. Imagine a partner who showers you with compliments and affection for days. Then, without clear reason, they become distant or cold. You start to wonder what went wrong and try harder to get back their attention. This cycle repeats, creating a push-pull effect that can be emotionally exhausting but addictive. This tactic works because people crave connection and approval. When positive feelings come unpredictably, the brain releases chemicals like dopamine, which fuels desire and reward. The mix of love and withdrawal creates a strong pull, much like gambling or other addictive behaviors. In friendships, bait and withhold can happen when someone is very warm one moment and distant the next. The other friend may become anxious, trying to figure out how to restore the closeness. This inconsistency builds dependence on the moments of approval. In families, parents or relatives might use this without realizing it. Offering praise or support only sometimes keeps children or other family members striving for approval, shaping their behavior through uncertainty rather than steady encouragement. This method is common in manipulative relationships. The person giving and taking affection controls the emotional balance, making the other person feel they need to earn love. The emotional roller coaster keeps the victim hooked, hoping for stability that rarely comes. Bait and withhold causes confusion and lower self-esteem. The person on the receiving end questions their worth and actions, constantly adjusting to regain favor. This creates a cycle that is hard to break. Recognizing this pattern is important. Signs include feeling anxious about someone's approval, being unsure where you stand, or working hard to please someone who is inconsistent. Healthy relationships offer steady respect and care. They don't rely on pulling away affection to maintain interest. Consistency builds trust, while bait and withhold erodes it. If you notice bait and withhold in your life, it helps to set boundaries and seek support. Understanding that the cycle is a form of control helps regain emotional strength. In everyday life, bait and withhold might appear in subtle ways, like a boss who praises work one day and ignores it the next, keeping employees unsure and eager to please. In short, bait and withhold means giving love or approval and then taking it away to create emotional dependence. This uneven attention hooks people by making them chase the positive feelings, often at the cost of their own well-being. Touch and influence means using a light touch on someone, like a brief tap on the arm, to increase your chance of persuading them. This small physical contact can build connection and trust, making people more open to your ideas or requests. Imagine you're talking to a colleague and lightly touch their arm while making a point. That simple gesture can make the conversation feel more personal and friendly. The colleague may respond more positively because the touch creates a sense of warmth and attention. This technique works because touch is a powerful way humans communicate. Even a brief, gentle touch releases chemicals in the brain that promote bonding and reduce stress. It signals care and builds rapport without words. Salespeople often use touch to connect with customers. For example, a brief touch on the shoulder while explaining a product can make customers feel more comfortable and engaged. This subtle contact can increase the chance of a sale. In everyday life, a light touch can support conversations. If a friend seems unsure, a gentle touch on the arm can show empathy and encouragement. It helps the friend feel understood and supported. Touch and influence depends on the right timing and context. The touch must be appropriate, brief, and respectful. Too much or too strong a touch can make people uncomfortable or defensive. Cultural differences also matter. In some cultures, touch is common and welcome, while in others it may be less acceptable. Reading the situation and the person's comfort is important. For example, during a team meeting, a manager might lightly touch an employee's hand to acknowledge good work. This small gesture boosts morale and makes the employee feel valued, increasing motivation. Using touch carefully helps reduce barriers in communication. When people feel connected, they listen better and are more open to influence. Touch also works well in teaching or coaching. A light touch on the shoulder while giving instructions can build trust and encourage focus. The power of touch is partly unconscious. People may not realize it affects them, but it does. It creates a positive impression and deepens social bonds. In short, touch and influence means using a gentle touch to build connection and increase persuasion. This simple, natural gesture makes people more receptive and creates a warmer, more trusting environment for communication. A halo effect happens when people see one good quality in someone or something and then assume other qualities are good too. This means if you associate yourself with beauty, fame, or status, others may give you extra credit or trust just because of that connection. This borrowed credibility helps influence how people see you. Imagine a new brand that partners with a famous athlete. People might assume the brand is high quality simply because the athlete uses or endorses it. The athlete's fame creates a positive glow around the product, even if people don't know much about the product itself. This effect works because our brains use shortcuts. When we notice one positive trait, like attractiveness or success, we expect other traits to match. It's easier than judging everything separately. The first impression casts a halo over everything connected to that person or thing. In social situations, someone well-dressed and confident often gets treated better. People may assume they are smart or capable without proof. Their appearance creates a halo that shapes others' opinions. Celebrities use the halo effect to their advantage. When a famous person appears in ads, fans tend to trust the product more. Their status transfers some credibility to the brand. This effect also shows up in hiring. Candidates with prestigious education or impressive resumes may get extra benefit of the doubt. Employers might overlook small flaws because the candidate's status shines through. Even in friendships, we judge new people by their associations. If someone is friends with popular or respected people, others expect them to be trustworthy or interesting. This borrowed status opens doors and builds connections. The halo effect can work in reverse too. Negative traits can overshadow positives, but the good halo tends to have a stronger impact. Using the halo effect means understanding how impressions shape judgment. If you want to build credibility, connect with respected or admired people, places, or ideas. Being seen near status helps others see you in a better light. For example, a new restaurant might showcase awards or celebrity visits to create a halo. This makes diners more confident about choosing it. This effect shows the power of first impressions and associations. Even without deep knowledge, people make quick judgments based on what they see first. In short, the halo effect means that one good quality or connection creates a positive overall impression. Associating with beauty, fame, or status lends you credibility by borrowing their positive glow. This mental shortcut shapes how people perceive and trust you. Fear than relief means creating a moment of anxiety or worry, then quickly removing it. This sudden change in emotion makes people more open and willing to agree with requests. The relief feels so good that it lowers resistance and increases compliance. Imagine you are waiting in line and suddenly someone tells you, you just missed your chance to get a free gift. You feel disappointed and anxious. Then the person says, just kidding, you still have time. That relief makes you feel better and more likely to listen to what they say next. Because your tension dropped, you are more open to suggestions. This technique works because strong emotions like fear or worry grab attention. When the feeling suddenly shifts to relief, people experience a kind of emotional reset. This makes them more relaxed and less guarded, ready to respond positively. For example, a salesperson might say, "Our sale ends today, only a few hours left," which creates a sense of urgency and fear of missing out. Then they add, "But we've extended it just for you." This relief makes customers feel lucky and more likely to buy. Fear than relief also works in conversations. If you tell a friend, "I thought you forgot my birthday," and then say, "But you actually didn't," the relief creates warmth and openness. The friend feels valued and more connected. This method is common in situations where quick decisions matter. When people move from worry to calm, they don't have time to overthink or resist. The key is timing. The relief must come quickly after the fear to create the emotional shift. Waiting too long weakens the effect. This tactic works because our brains want to avoid negative feelings and seek comfort. When relief arrives, it feels rewarding and makes us more cooperative. Sometimes fear than relief appears in jokes or surprises. The sudden change in emotion grabs attention and leaves a positive impression. Using this technique responsibly matters. Creating unnecessary fear can harm trust. The goal is to guide people gently, not manipulate or scare them unfairly. In short, fear than relief means causing brief anxiety and then removing it to make people more open. The quick shift from worry to comfort lowers resistance and encourages agreement. This simple emotional switch helps influence decisions smoothly. Mirroring means subtly copying someone's movements, gestures, or tone of voice to build trust and connection. When you match the way someone acts, they feel more comfortable and understood. This simple act creates a sense of rapport without needing many words. Imagine you are talking with a new colleague. If they lean forward while speaking, you lean forward too. If they speak softly, you lower your voice slightly. These small matches help the other person feel like you are on the same page, even without saying it outright. This technique works because humans are wired to like people who are like themselves. When someone mirrors us, it signals similarity and attention. This feeling encourages openness and trust. In sales, a good salesperson might copy a customer's body language or speech rhythm to build rapport. If the customer uses casual language, the salesperson does too. This makes the customer feel understood and more willing to listen. Mirroring also works in friendships and relationships. If your friend smiles or nods while talking, doing the same shows you care and are engaged. This strengthens bonds and helps conversations flow smoothly. Therapists use mirroring to connect with clients. They match the client's tone and posture gently to create safety and encourage sharing. The client feels seen and accepted, which supports healing. Timing and subtlety matter. Mirroring should be natural and not obvious. If you copy every movement exactly, it can seem fake or mocking. The goal is to reflect key gestures or tone gently to build connection. For example, if someone crosses their arms, you might cross yours after a moment. Or if they speak slowly, you slow down your speech. These small actions signal empathy. Mirroring works best when you pay attention to the other person's nonverbal cues. It's about being present and responsive, not following a script. This method also helps reduce tension. In conflict, matching calm body language can lower stress and invite cooperation. If you mirror someone's relaxed posture, it encourages them to stay calm too. In short, mirroring means subtly copying how someone moves or speaks to build trust. This quiet technique makes people feel understood and connected. When used well, it creates smoother, more comfortable interactions. Overwhelm with details means giving someone so much information that they become mentally tired and less able to resist or question what you want. When people receive too many facts, figures, or explanations at once, their brains can get overloaded. This mental fatigue makes them more likely to agree or follow along without fully thinking it through. Imagine a salesperson explaining every technical feature of a product in rapid detail. The customer hears about battery life, materials, manufacturing processes, and warranty terms all at once. The flood of information makes it hard to focus on any one point. Feeling overwhelmed, the customer may simply say yes to move the conversation along. This technique works because our brains have limits on how much information they can process comfortably. When overloaded, people experience decision fatigue and want to avoid more effort. They often choose the easiest option, which might be agreeing or trusting the speaker. In negotiations, one side might present lengthy reports, charts, and statistics to wear down the other. The opponent, unable to absorb or challenge all the details, may concede to the demands just to end the mental strain. Even in daily conversations, overwhelming someone with too many reasons or explanations can cause them to give up arguing. For example, when asking for a favor. Listing many justifications one after another might exhaust the listener's patience, increasing compliance. Teachers sometimes unintentionally overwhelm students by covering too much material too quickly. Students feel lost and give up trying to follow. Breaking down information into manageable parts helps avoid this overload. The key to using overwhelm with details effectively is pacing. Presenting a large amount of information quickly makes it harder to resist. If you spread it out slowly, people have time to process and question. This tactic is not about lying or hiding facts. It's about controlling how much information people can handle at once. Using complex terms or technical jargon adds to the effect by making it harder to follow. However, overwhelming someone too much can backfire. They might tune out completely or lose trust if they feel manipulated. Balance and subtlety are important. For example, a lawyer might present a dense, detailed argument to a jury. The complexity can make jurors defer to the lawyer's authority rather than analyze every point. In short, overwhelm with details floods a person with information to cause mental fatigue. This reduces resistance and makes them more likely to agree or accept what is said. The technique uses the brain's limited capacity to influence decisions quietly but powerfully. Delay instant gratification means pausing before reacting, deciding, or buying something. This brief pause helps you regain control over your choices and avoid impulsive actions that you might later regret. When you take time before responding, you give your mind space to think clearly and make better decisions. Imagine you see a new gadget on sale and feel excited to buy it immediately. Instead of rushing, you take a moment to pause and ask yourself, do I really need this? Will I use it often? This delay helps you avoid spending money on something you might not want later. This technique works because our brains often jump to quick rewards without considering long-term effects. Instant gratification feels good in the moment, but can lead to problems like overspending or making poor choices. A pause interrupts this automatic response. For example, in conversations, if someone says something upsetting, waiting a few seconds before replying lets you respond calmly. Without this delay, you might say something hurtful or react emotionally, which can harm relationships. In sales, businesses often encourage quick decisions by creating urgency. They use phrases like limited time offer or buy now before it's gone. Delaying your choice helps you avoid falling into these pressure tactics and makes your decision more thoughtful. Parents teach children to wait for treats or toys to build self-control. This practice helps kids learn patience and the value of thinking before acting. The power of delay also appears in goal setting. When tempted to skip exercise or work, pausing to remind yourself of long-term benefits can keep you focused and motivated. Delay instant gratification is a way to protect yourself from rash decisions. It gives you control over impulses and helps prioritize what matters most. For example, Before sending an angry email, you might wait and rewrite it later. This pause reduces the chance of saying something harmful and leads to better communication. In daily life, you can use this technique by taking a deep breath before reacting to any situation. That simple pause creates space for better judgment. The challenge is to remember to pause, especially when emotions or desires feel strong. Practicing this habit strengthens your ability to delay impulses naturally. In short, delaying instant gratification means taking a moment before reacting or deciding. This pause gives you control, helping you avoid impulsive choices and make smarter decisions. It's a simple but effective way to improve how you respond to life's demands. The reciprocity trick means giving someone a small gift, favor, or kindness to make them feel they owe you something in return. This feeling of obligation encourages people to say yes to your requests or help you later. It works because people naturally want to balance favors and avoid feeling indebted. Imagine you bring a coworker a coffee without being asked. Later, when you need help with a project, they are more likely to agree because they want to return the kindness. The small gift created a sense of give and take between you. This technique works because our minds value fairness. When someone gives us something, we feel the need to give back. Even small gestures trigger this response. In sales, companies often use free samples or small gifts. Giving a free sample of a product makes customers more willing to buy because they feel a subtle pressure to reciprocate. This increases sales without forcing the customer. At social events, offering a drink or snack to someone you want to talk to can open doors. That small act makes the other person more receptive and friendly. Reciprocity also happens in friendships. If a friend listens to your problems, you're likely to return the support when they need it. This balance builds stronger relationships over time. The trick is to keep the initial gift or favor small and genuine. If it feels too big or manipulative, people may resist or suspect your motives. For example, a charity might send a small gift, like address labels, before asking for a donation. The gift makes recipients feel appreciated and more likely to give back. This technique doesn't rely on direct requests immediately after giving. Sometimes just planting the seed of kindness makes people more open in the future. Reciprocity is a powerful social rule that helps communities and relationships function smoothly. People keep connections balanced by returning kindnesses. In daily life, you might use this by offering help first or sharing something useful. This can lead to cooperation and goodwill. However, reciprocity can be used poorly if it becomes a way to manipulate or guilt others. True generosity doesn't expect anything back, but the reciprocity trick uses natural social instincts to encourage cooperation. In short, the reciprocity trick means giving something small to create a feeling of obligation. This makes people more likely to return the favor or agree to your requests. It taps into a basic human desire to balance giving and receiving. The illusion of superiority means flattering someone's intelligence or ego to make them feel better about themselves. When people think they are smarter or better than others, they let their guard down. This opens the door for influence because they become less critical and more willing to listen. Imagine talking to a coworker who often likes to show they know a lot. Instead of challenging them, you say, "You always have the best insights on this topic." This compliment makes them feel respected and smart. Because their ego is satisfied, they may be more open to your ideas or suggestions. This tactic works because people naturally want to feel competent and valued. When you recognize their strengths, they relax and trust you more. The sense of superiority boosts their confidence, but it can also make them overlook flaws or opposing views. In sales, a salesperson might say, "You clearly understand this market well," to flatter a customer. This makes the customer feel smart and respected. They lower their defenses and are more likely to consider the salesperson's pitch. In conversations, using the illusion of superiority helps reduce resistance. If someone feels smarter than the other person, they stop defending their position as strongly. Instead, they engage in a more open and cooperative way. Teachers or coaches use this method too. Praising a student's intelligence encourages them to take on challenges and listen to advice. The student feels capable and ready to learn. The key is sincerity. Flattery that feels fake or over the top can backfire. People notice when praise is not genuine and may become suspicious or defensive. For example, a manager who says, "You're one of the sharpest people on the team," motivates the employee and builds trust. The employee feels valued and more willing to follow guidance. This method also works by appealing to pride. When people see themselves as experts, they want to live up to that image. This makes them more likely to act in ways that fit the compliment. The illusion of superiority doesn't mean making someone arrogant. It's about acknowledging real strengths to open communication. It helps conversations flow without conflict. In everyday life, you might use this by recognizing a friend's skills or knowledge before asking for help. Saying, "You always know the best places to eat," makes the friend more eager to share recommendations. In short, the illusion of superiority uses sincere flattery to boost someone's ego. This lowers their guard and opens them to influence. By making people feel smart and valued, you create a more positive and cooperative atmosphere. Social manipulation by scarcity means making yourself seem less available to increase how much others value you. When people think something or someone is hard to get, they often want it more. By limiting your time or attention, you create a sense of rarity that raises your perceived worth. Imagine a friend who rarely answers texts right away or can only meet occasionally. Because they are not always available, others may see their time as more valuable. When they do make time, people pay more attention and appreciate those moments more. This tactic works because humans are wired to desire what feels rare. Scarcity makes things seem special and worth more. When you limit your availability, you make others work harder to connect, which increases their interest. In dating, for example, someone who isn't always free to hang out often becomes more attractive. Their scarcity creates mystery and makes their presence feel like a reward. At work, employees who say yes to every request might be taken for granted. But those who manage their time carefully and don't always say yes gain respect. Others value their time and expertise more because it seems limited. Social manipulation by scarcity doesn't mean ignoring people or being rude. It means setting boundaries about your time and attention. Saying no occasionally or spacing out meetings creates a natural sense of scarcity. For example, if a colleague only joins meetings when they have something valuable to contribute, their presence is more noticed and appreciated. This scarcity raises their influence in the group. This method also applies to social media. People who post less often, but with meaningful content, tend to get more engagement. Their limited availability online makes followers pay closer attention. The key is balance. If you become too unavailable, people may lose interest or feel ignored. Scarcity should create value, not frustration. Timing matters as well. Being selectively available during important moments shows you prioritize what matters. This strategic scarcity increases your influence. In friendships, being there during key events, but not every small occasion, makes your presence more meaningful. Friends notice and respect that you value their time too. This tactic works because scarcity signals importance. When something is common and easy to get, it feels less special. Limiting availability taps into this natural desire for what's rare. In short, social manipulation by scarcity means making yourself less available to raise your value in others' eyes. By creating a sense of rarity around your time and attention, you increase how much people appreciate and seek you out. Using someone's name often in conversation helps build trust and connection. When you say a person's name, it grabs their attention and makes the interaction feel more personal. People like hearing their own name because it shows you see them as an individual, not just another face in the crowd. Imagine you meet a new coworker and use their name during your talk. Instead of just saying, "That's a good idea," you say, "That's a good idea, Sarah." Using her name makes the compliment feel more genuine and direct. Sarah feels recognized and valued, which helps you connect. This technique works because names are deeply tied to our identity. Hearing your name activates parts of the brain linked to social bonding. When someone uses your name, it creates a small but meaningful feeling of closeness. In sales, calling a customer by name makes them feel important. A salesperson might say, "What do you think about this option, Michael?" Instead of a general question, using the name draws the customer in and builds rapport. Teachers use this method too. When a teacher calls students by name, it keeps them engaged and shows respect. Students feel seen and are more likely to participate. Using names helps in difficult conversations as well. When emotions run high, saying a person's name calmly can reduce tension. It reminds both sides of the personal connection and encourages listening. The key is to use names naturally, not forcefully. Overusing a name or saying it in a way that feels fake can annoy people. Saying a name too often might sound like you're trying to manipulate. For example, in a meeting, saying, "Thanks for your input, David," once or twice shows appreciation without overdoing it. This makes David feel respected without discomfort. In everyday life, using names in greetings or when asking questions shows friendliness. Saying, "Good morning, Lisa," or "Can you help me with this, John?" makes conversations warmer and more personal. This simple habit strengthens relationships because it signals attention and respect. It tells people you are focused on them, which builds trust. Using someone's name also helps you remember it better. The more you say it, the easier it is to recall next time, which improves ongoing connections. In short, saying someone's name often increases trust and connection. It makes people feel recognized and valued. This small effort in communication creates stronger bonds and smoother interactions. Confirmation bias setup means giving someone information that matches what they already believe. People naturally like to hear ideas that fit their existing opinions because it feels comfortable and reassuring. When you provide facts or stories that agree with their view, they are more likely to trust you and accept your message. Imagine you know a friend who believes eating healthy helps prevent illness. If you share articles or examples that support this idea, your friend will listen more closely. They feel validated because the information fits what they already think. This makes your message stronger and more persuasive. This technique works because people tend to ignore or reject information that conflicts with their beliefs. Instead, they seek out or remember facts that confirm what they already believe. This is called confirmation bias. By feeding this bias, you build trust and lower resistance. In sales, if a customer prefers eco-friendly products, you highlight your product's sustainable features. You focus on the parts that match their values and ignore unrelated details. This confirms their belief and makes them more willing to buy. In politics, campaigners use confirmation bias by sharing news and opinions that align with voters' views. Supporters feel understood and stick with the candidate because the messages confirm their beliefs. Teachers can use this method by connecting new material to what students already know and believe. This helps students accept new ideas more easily because the information fits their existing understanding. The key is to listen and understand what the other person believes, then provide information that fits that view. If you contradict their beliefs too directly, they may shut down or argue. For example, if someone believes exercise improves mood, you share studies that show how physical activity releases feel-good chemicals in the brain. This supports their belief and encourages acceptance. Confirmation bias setup is not about lying or hiding facts. It means choosing the right parts of information to share first, building a foundation for trust. In everyday life, you might use this by agreeing with a friend's opinion before sharing your thoughts. Saying, "I see why you think that," helps them feel heard and more open to what you say next. This technique helps avoid unnecessary conflict. When people feel their beliefs are respected, conversations stay calm and productive. In short, confirmation bias setup means providing information that fits what someone already believes. This approach builds trust and makes your message easier to accept by aligning with their existing views. The endowment effect means that when people feel like they own something, they value it more than before. Simply having control or responsibility over an item or idea makes it seem more important and valuable. This feeling of ownership changes how much people want to keep or protect what they have. Imagine a company gives customers a free trial of a product. During the trial, the customers start to feel like the product belongs to them. When the trial ends, they are more willing to pay to keep it because they already feel connected. That sense of ownership raises the product's value in their minds. This effect works because ownership creates an emotional bond. When people have something, even temporarily, they focus on its positive aspects and imagine how losing it would feel. The thought of losing what they own makes them more attached. For example, a real estate agent might encourage potential buyers to imagine living in a house. They ask the buyers to picture their furniture in the rooms or to consider how they would use the space. This mental ownership increases the buyer's desire and willingness to pay. In daily life, if you lend someone a book and let them take care of it, they may start to value the book more. Feeling responsible for the book makes it feel like it belongs to them, even if they don't own it officially. The endowment effect also appears in ideas or projects. If you involve someone in planning or creating something, they feel more ownership. This makes them care more about the outcome and support the project. This effect can help explain why people resist change. When they feel ownership over routines, roles, or possessions, letting go feels like a loss. The emotional weight of ownership can make people stick to what they have. For instance, employees which shape their work processes may resist new systems because they feel attached to the old way. Their sense of ownership raises the value of what they already know. Using the endowment effect means creating opportunities for people to feel involved or responsible. Letting them touch, try, or personalize something helps build that ownership feeling. In sales, allowing customers to test a product or customize it increases their sense of possession. This makes buying more likely because they already value what they own. The key is to make the ownership experience genuine. Forced or fake ownership doesn't work well. People need to feel real control or connection. In short, the endowment effect means people value things more when they feel they own them. This sense of ownership builds attachment and increases the desire to keep or buy something. Creating opportunities for ownership helps influence decisions by tapping into natural feelings of possession. Conversational framing means shaping how someone thinks about a topic by how you start the conversation. The way you open sets expectations and guides how the rest of the talk unfolds. By framing the discussion carefully, you influence how others understand and respond to your message. Imagine you want to talk to a coworker about a problem with a project. Instead of starting with, "We have a big issue," you say, "I think we have a chance to improve this project." This positive frame makes your coworker more open and solution-focused. The way you begin sets the tone and directs the conversation toward cooperation rather than conflict. This technique works because people use the first information they hear as a reference point. The opening frames their mindset and influences how they interpret what follows. If you start calmly and positively, they are more likely to respond in kind. In sales, framing is common. A salesperson might begin with, "Many customers have found this product helpful for saving time." This frame creates a positive expectation before details come up. It encourages the customer to listen with an open mind. In everyday talks, how you frame a request matters. Saying, "Could you help me with this?" feels different from, "I need you to do this." The first invites cooperation gently, while the second demands action. The initial frame affects how the other person feels and responds. Teachers use conversational framing too. Starting a lesson with, "Today we will explore some exciting ideas," makes students curious and eager. Framing the topic as interesting creates a better learning environment. The key is choosing words and tone that guide the listener's mindset. Avoid starting with negatives or demands if you want a positive response. Instead, open with something that invites agreement or curiosity. For example, when giving feedback, saying, "I appreciate your effort, and I think we can make it even better," frames criticism constructively. It encourages the listener to accept feedback without feeling attacked. Conversational framing also helps manage conflicts. Opening with, "I want to understand your point of view," sets a respectful and open tone. It reduces defensiveness and encourages dialogue. Timing matters. The first moments of a conversation hold the most influence. Starting well prepares the ground for everything that follows. In short, conversational framing means shaping expectations by how you begin a talk. The opening words and tone guide how others think and respond. This simple skill helps create better understanding and cooperation in many situations. Word pattern interruption means changing the usual way someone speaks or thinks by breaking their normal speech patterns. When people listen or talk on autopilot, they don't fully process what's happening. Interrupting their usual flow helps grab their attention and makes them think more carefully. Imagine you're in a meeting and someone is giving a predictable presentation. Suddenly, you ask a question in a different way or use an unexpected phrase. This breaks the usual rhythm and forces the speaker and listeners to pay closer attention. The change interrupts automatic thinking and opens the door for new ideas. This technique works because the brain likes patterns. When something unexpected happens, it stops the routine and makes people more alert. This interruption helps move people out of habit and into active thinking. For example, during a sales pitch, a salesperson might use an unusual word or phrase to catch the customer off guard. Instead of a typical, "Would you like to buy this product?" they say, "Imagine owning the key to your freedom." The unexpected wording shifts the listener's focus and sparks curiosity. In conversations, changing your tone, speed, or word choice can interrupt someone who is stuck on a negative thought. Saying something surprising or unusual breaks their mental loop and helps them see things differently. Teachers use this method to keep students engaged. Instead of always asking the same type of question, they throw in a surprising one or change the lesson style. This breaks the pattern and helps students pay attention. The key is to make the interruption clear but natural. It shouldn't confuse or annoy. The goal is to reset attention, not distract completely. For instance, if someone is repeating the same argument, you might say, "Let's step back for a moment." This phrase interrupts the pattern and invites a fresh perspective. Word pattern interruption can also work in writing. Using unexpected phrases or breaking usual sentence structure grabs readers' attention and keeps them engaged. This technique is powerful because it changes the way people process information. When their brain stops on something new, they become more open to ideas or suggestions. In daily life, you can use this by changing how you ask questions or by adding unusual comments during a routine talk. This keeps conversations lively and meaningful. In short, word pattern interruption means breaking normal speech patterns to grab attention and shift thinking. This simple change helps people move out of automatic responses and think more deeply, improving communication and influence. Identity priming means framing your request based on how someone sees themselves. By appealing to their self-image, you encourage them to act in a way that matches that identity. When people hear, "You're the kind of person who," they want to live up to that description. This makes them more likely to agree or help. Imagine you want a colleague to volunteer for a project. Instead of simply asking, you say, "You're the kind of person who takes on challenges and leads teams." This statement connects the request to how they view themselves as capable and responsible. Because the request fits their identity, they feel motivated to say yes. This technique works because people want to be consistent with their self-image. If you describe them in a positive way, they try to match that behavior. It feels natural to act in line with how they think about themselves. For example, if you ask a friend for help and say, "You're always the one who helps out when others need it," they are more likely to respond positively. The description reminds them of their role as a helpful person. Identity priming also helps in sales. A salesperson might say, "You're someone who cares about quality and making smart choices," before showing a product. This framing encourages the buyer to choose the product because it fits their self-image as a thoughtful consumer. In parenting, a parent might say to a child, "You're a good reader who loves learning," before encouraging them to read more. The child feels proud of that identity and wants to live up to it. The key is to know how the person sees themselves or wants to be seen. The statement must feel true or desirable. If the description feels false or exaggerated, it won't work. For example, telling someone who doesn't see themselves as organized, "You're very detail-oriented," may cause resistance. But saying, "You're the kind of person who pays attention when it matters," feels more relatable and encouraging. Identity priming also reduces resistance because it doesn't feel like a direct request. Instead, it appeals to who they already are or want to be. In conversations, you might say, "You're someone who values fairness, so I think you'll agree with this idea." This frames the topic around their values, making it easier for them to support it. In short, identity priming means shaping your request around someone's self-image. By linking the request to who they believe they are, you increase the chance they will say yes. This simple shift helps people act consistently with their positive identity. Loop interrupting for anxiety means doing something physical to break the cycle of repetitive, stressful thoughts. When anxiety traps the mind in a loop of worry or fear, a simple physical action can shift focus and calm the brain. This interruption helps stop mental spirals before they grow stronger. Imagine someone sitting and feeling overwhelmed by anxious thoughts about a meeting. Instead of letting the worry build, they stand up and take a few deep breaths. Stretching or walking around breaks the pattern of thinking. The body movement signals the brain to reset, which reduces anxiety. This technique works because anxiety often keeps the mind stuck on the same worries. Physical actions bring attention to the present moment and the body, moving the brain away from repetitive thoughts. It helps interrupt automatic negative thinking. For example, tapping your fingers slowly or squeezing a stress ball focuses your mind on the movement. This simple act creates a distraction and helps calm racing thoughts. In stressful situations, people might use grounding exercises like feeling the texture of a chair or noticing the floor beneath their feet. These physical sensations bring awareness back to the here and now, breaking the loop of anxiety. Loop interrupting can also include changing your posture. Sitting up straight or rolling your shoulders shifts physical tension and sends new signals to the brain. This helps reduce stress and breaks mental cycles. The key is to choose a physical action that feels natural and easy to do anywhere. It doesn't need to be complicated. Small movements or changes in breathing work well. For example, if someone feels anxiety rising during a presentation, pausing to take a slow breath and press their feet into the ground can interrupt the negative thought cycle and help them regain focus. This method helps because the brain connects body and mind closely. Changing what the body does changes how the mind feels. Loop interrupting also trains the brain over time. When you practice these physical breaks regularly, you become better at stopping anxiety before it grows. In daily life, this might look like taking a quick walk when stress builds or stretching at your desk. These simple acts prevent worry from spiraling out of control. This approach is a useful tool alongside other ways to manage anxiety. It's quick, practical, and easy to use anytime stress starts to take over. In short, loop interrupting for anxiety means using physical actions to break cycles of repetitive worry. These simple movements shift attention, calm the mind, and help prevent mental spirals from growing stronger. The illusion of choice means giving someone a few options to pick from, but all the choices lead to the outcome you want. It feels like they have control, but in reality, you guide the decision. This tactic makes people more likely to agree because they feel involved and free to choose. Imagine you want your friend to join you for dinner. Instead of asking, "Do you want to come?" you say, "Would you rather eat Italian or Mexican tonight?" Both choices mean they come with you, but you let them decide the type of food. Your friend feels they made the choice, but you get what you wanted. This works because people value the feeling of control. When given options, they feel respected and less pressured. The sense of choice makes them more open to agreeing. In sales, a store clerk might ask, "Would you like this jacket in blue or black?" The customer chooses the color, but already agreed to buy. The illusion of choice hides the real goal, making a sale. In negotiations, offering two acceptable deals gives the other side the feeling of control while steering the outcome. For example, would you prefer a 3-year contract with a lower monthly fee or a 1-year contract with a higher fee? Both options benefit you, but seem like real choices. The key is to make all options appealing or at least acceptable. If one choice looks bad, people might resist or try to find a different option. The illusion works best when all outcomes move toward your goal. For example, if you want a colleague to take on a task, you might say, "Do you want to handle the report this week or next week?" Both answers mean they agree to do the task, but they decide when. This technique doesn't feel forceful because people focus on picking rather than agreeing. It respects their autonomy while guiding the decision. In everyday life, parents use this by asking children, "Do you want to wear the red shirt or the blue shirt today?" The child feels in control, but the parent ensures the child dresses appropriately. The illusion of choice also reduces conflict. When people feel free, they are less likely to resist or argue. It creates cooperation through subtle guidance. In short, the illusion of choice means offering limited options that all lead where you want. This creates a sense of control while steering decisions in your favor. It's a simple way to guide others while making them feel free. Negative visualization means asking someone to imagine the worst possible outcome. By doing this, you make the real situation feel better and create a sense of relief when you offer a solution. This contrast between fear and safety makes people more willing to accept your idea or help. Imagine you want a friend to buy insurance. You ask them to picture what would happen if their home caught fire and they had no coverage. Thinking about losing everything feels scary and real. Then you explain how insurance protects against that risk. The relief your friend feels makes them more likely to see insurance as necessary and say yes. This technique works because the brain responds strongly to threats. When people imagine danger or loss, their attention sharpens. Offering a way to avoid that threat provides comfort and reduces anxiety. The relief feels like a reward, making your solution more attractive. For example, a salesperson might say, "Imagine your phone breaking right before an important trip and losing all your contacts." Then may offer a protection plan. The fear of losing important information makes the plan seem valuable and worth buying. In conversations, negative visualization can encourage preparation. If someone worries about public speaking, you might ask them to imagine forgetting their lines or stumbling on stage. Then you suggest ways to practice and feel ready. This contrast helps them see the benefit of your advice. Therapists use this method too. They ask clients to consider worst-case scenarios to reduce fear. By facing these fears in their mind, clients often feel less anxious and more in control. The key is to guide the imagination gently. The goal isn't to scare unnecessarily, but to make the risk clear. Then, offering a practical solution creates a sense of safety and confidence. For example, a financial advisor might say, "What if you had no savings during an emergency?" After painting that picture, they explain how planning can protect you. This helps clients understand the importance of saving. Negative visualization works by creating a mental contrast. When people feel the risk strongly, they appreciate relief more. This emotional shift makes your offer or advice feel more urgent and necessary. In everyday life, you might use this by helping a friend prepare for a job interview. Asking them to imagine what could go wrong motivates them to practice and improve. In short, negative visualization means having someone imagine the worst case, then offering relief. This contrast sharpens focus, reduces anxiety, and makes people more open to solutions. It's a simple way to highlight the value of what you propose. Embedded commands are hidden instructions placed inside regular, casual sentences. Instead of directly telling someone what to do, you embed the command in a longer statement. This subtle approach influences the listener without making them feel pressured or controlled. Imagine you want a coworker to start a task. Instead of saying, "Start the report now," you say, "When you review the data, you might find it helpful to start the report soon." The hidden command, "Start the report," is inside a relaxed sentence. Your coworker hears the suggestion naturally and is more likely to act on it. This technique works because the brain often processes spoken language in layers. While the surface meaning is casual, the embedded command reaches the subconscious. It slips past conscious resistance and guides behavior gently. For example, a teacher might say, "As you read this chapter, notice how you can understand the main ideas." The phrase, "notice how you can understand," guides students to pay closer attention without a direct order. In sales, a salesperson might say, "Many people feel comfortable choosing this option when they see how it fits their needs." The embedded command, "Choose this option," encourages buying without seeming pushy. Embedded commands also appear in therapy or coaching. A coach might say, "You might realize you can handle stress better as you practice these techniques." The command, "Handle stress better," is woven into the sentence, helping clients accept change. A key is subtlety. Commands hidden too obviously can raise suspicion or resistance. The longer, casual sentence around the command helps disguise the instruction. For instance, instead of saying, "Sign the contract now," saying, "When you feel ready, you might want to sign the contract," feels less direct but still encourages action. This method works best when combined with a calm and confident tone. The way you say it affects how well the command reaches the listener's mind. In daily conversations, you might use embedded commands without realizing it. Saying, "If you think about it, you'll see the benefits," contains the hidden suggestion, "See the benefits." Embedded commands help influence decisions smoothly. They respect free will while guiding behavior. In short, embedded commands hide instructions inside casual statements. This subtle technique influences others by slipping suggestions into normal conversation. It encourages action without pressure, making it an effective way to guide choices naturally. Marketing style framing means presenting a benefit as something rare, urgent, or exclusive. This kind of framing makes the offer feel special and limited, which motivates people to act quickly or value it more. When something seems hard to get or only available for a short time, it becomes more appealing. Imagine a store that says, "For this weekend only, get 20% off our best-selling shoes." The discount is framed as urgent and limited. Customers feel they must act fast to avoid missing out. The urgency drives quicker decisions and higher sales. This technique works because people don't want to lose opportunities. When a benefit feels rare or exclusive, it gains importance. The fear of missing out, often called FOMO, pushes people to act before it's too late. For example, a gym might offer exclusive access to a new training class for the first 50 members. By framing the class as exclusive and limited, the gym encourages people to sign up quickly. In online shopping, phrases like "only 3 left in stock" use scarcity to increase urgency. Customers see the low number and feel pressure to buy before the item sells out. This style of framing also helps create a sense of value. If you say, "This premium service is available only to select clients," people perceive it as higher quality and more desirable because not everyone can have it. The key is to make the rarity or urgency believable. If the offer seems fake or exaggerated, people lose trust. Genuine limits or exclusivity work best. For example, a concert might advertise tickets available only until Friday, which encourages fans to buy early. If the deadline is real, the framing is effective and fair. Marketing style framing works because it taps into basic human psychology. We value things more when they seem limited and feel motivated by time pressure. In everyday life, you can use this by presenting ideas or favors as special opportunities. Saying, "I'm only sharing this advice with a few people," makes others feel privileged and more interested. This approach also helps in leadership. Leaders who frame goals as unique chances for growth motivate teams to work harder and seize the moment. In short, marketing style framing presents benefits as rare, urgent, or exclusive. This makes offers feel more valuable and encourages faster action. By creating a sense of scarcity or specialness, you increase interest and drive decisions.